Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Fletch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How's everybody doing tonight? Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. I would do it for you, and let's party. Real quick, let's say a big thank you to my6shirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it is the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. We got Opus in the building. Welcome. So we got an interesting show for you tonight, guys. So for starters, I wanted to go back to what we used to do, the longer form reacting to longer form stuff. And, as the channel's getting bigger and there is a lot of discussion with you guys in the chat, I've had to shorten the amount of content that we're reacting to, because fortunately we are getting a lot of discussion. But we're going back. So instead of, just having 4, 5, 7 hour streams, what I'm going to do is we're going to go around 2.5 hours for every single stream. And then whatever else is left in the video, we're going to go over to the Discord server to finish it. What? There you go. All right. So what we are going to be diving into is John Doyle. He went to HBCU, which is a quote unquote black college, and very, similar in the same vein as Steven Crowder's Changed My Mind. He, set up his table, and his prompt is, as the title of this stream is, America is not racist. That is the prompt that John Doyle is presenting to these people at a black college. And let's see how it goes. As always, if you can hear the video, please do let me know.
For the last couple of years, the United States has officially celebrated Juneteenth on June 19th, thanks to Joe Biden signing the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act in 2021, establishing the day as a federal holiday. And it commemorates the anniversary of the order by Major General Gordon Granger proclaiming freedom for enslaved people in Texas on June 19th, 1865. And this is actually the first federal holiday to be added to the calendar since the addition of Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 1983, which was another holiday meant to solidify the left-wing historiography that the glory of this country simply comes from its ability to liberate itself in all regards from the evil white men who built it. And I know a lot of well-meaning people think that Martin Luther King Jr. would just be appalled and completely against the actions and demands of the activist groups that claim to carry his torch today. But a study of the actual history of the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr., the history which neither the right nor the left will touch, shows that things are playing out exactly as expected. And if you're interested in learning about it, I have a whole video on that as well. But the problem with Juneteenth isn't that it celebrates the anniversary of freeing enslaved people in Texas. Obviously, nobody supports slavery. That should go without saying. The problem is that the intent behind elevating this day to being a federal holiday is the same intent behind things like the 1619 Project, the Black National Anthem, Black Lives Matter, even our advertisements, which is to reorient the American historiography, the way that we understand and justify our own existence, history, and purpose, to be about the perpetual struggle of oppressed minorities against the evil white men who have been oppressing them this whole time.
So real quick, again, I just want to point out that we are here to judge the conversation itself. We're not here because we're rah-rah Black Lives Matter. We're not here because we're rah-rah John Doyle. We are here to discuss what is there. We are not supporting anything that we don't say, yes, I support that. Because I do believe, I'm not super familiar with John Doyle, but he is rather right wing, and I don't know, I always skip through this to make sure we got something good for you guys, but I don't know exactly what he's going to say. So just, if he pulls something out of left field, it ain't me. Oba said, a sad Juneteenth is overshadowed by a whole month of Pride. That's a great point. I never even thought of that. That's a great point. I completely reject the preposterous idea of a black national anthem. The idea is a contradiction. And, actually bringing up the idea of pride, it's the same kind of contradiction that we shouldn't, if we are going to have a national anthem, it has to be the national anthem. if we have other ones, then it means that we have white America, or rather, we have America, and then we have Black America as two different countries. Similarly to if we are waving the American flag and the pride flag, well, that's like on government buildings, then that's not the same thing. It's or rather, it is the same thing. It's creating there's the LGBT country and there is the rest of America, and I mean that kind of does seem like where we are, but it's not a good thing. Hey, we got a Mikey story in the building. Welcome to the party. Another awesome YouTuber. Just dropped a link to his channel. Definitely go check him out. The Mikey story says, so far, this long stroking talk by John Doyle, just giving us some just some context as to, again, what we're doing out here and why, especially somebody as controversial as John Doyle. If he just started with the discussions, then a lot of people might have seen this as an antagonistic event. Whereas from what I saw, he really is honestly just trying to have these conversations similar to how Crowder does. And even if you don't agree with Crowder himself, you can tell that for the most part, the ideas at the table are in good faith. So we'll get there. Don't worry. We got Lars and Rune in the building. Welcome to the party. So I'd rather have Juneteenth month instead of Pride Month. I 100% agree. And so does Opus. No other holiday gets a month, so we need to go back to just a day, I think. Yeah, we get Juneteenth, we get Pride Day, and everybody's happy.
That's not true. It's not even half true. It's not, well, sure, it's somewhat true, but the left is just taking it too far. That's a cop-out. It's false. But if you're going to have a second Independence Day, a second national anthem, and a new history of America, which starts in 1619 instead of 1492, suggesting literally that the arrival of African slaves on the North American continent has been more consequential for the United States of America than the arrival of the European explorers in 1492, paving the way for the establishment of this country in the first place, then how could you expect this narrative to not reign, assuming that it's not already? The first step in dismantling this narrative is just speaking about it fully and honestly, which is why I decided to do a Change My Mind segment about it. Now, obviously...
All right, now he's long stroking. So let's just get to what we're doing.
One of the more popular ones actually said that HBCUs shouldn't be a safe space for white people to carry on like this. In other words, if you're white and you exist on an HBCU campus, you cannot justly expect to preserve your safety if you choose to dissent from the predominant beliefs of the black students. That means you deserve violence. But what they really hated was at the end of it, a few of the black guys who were trying to actually have a conversation with us, they helped us carry the equipment back to our cars. And for doing so, they were called race traitors, house slaves, coons, and Uncle Toms. So given all of the death threats and viciously racist sentiment I've received after the fact, you must be expecting to watch me conduct myself in an extremely disrespectful and hateful manner. As the video continues, I would like you to be thinking to yourself about all the backlash that we received and if our conduct actually warrants it. There's no way that that would be the response if I just sat down with a sign that reads America's not racist in
all right, bro, come on, let's get to it.
All right, so we're here.
There we go.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Doyle.
Doyle, nice to meet you. My name is John. Of course, the sign says America's not racist, change my mind. We're here for Black History Month, just trying to have conversations. We spoke a little bit before we were recording. My position is essentially that America in its modern state is not racist as a people, as an institution. Any of the metrics by which you would try to measure that, I don't think it exists. And if it does exist, I would argue that it's actually racist systematically against white people. I think we see this in basically every institution, whether at a governmental level, in academia. We see this in all sorts of different NGOs. And even as a people, I think that anti-white sentiment is very common now, and it's sort of written off as nothing too serious. I think it's even promoted in a lot of aspects. So I'm open to having my mind changed. I know you are as well. So I'd just be curious to get your thoughts on my position and your position as well.
Okay, so
let's let it ride.
One, I don't really think my mind is going to be changed, and two, I have to let you understand that you do think that racism is affecting white people now, but literally you're standing on the biggest HBCU, the biggest public HBCU, North Carolina A&T, and I feel like you failed to realize that this is a HBCU, and the HBCU was actually created in order for Black people that was seeking education, in order to have a safe environment where they don't have to worry about racism.
Yeah, that's specifically why he went there, bro. Quit the grandstanding. He starts off grandstanding. Well, first, before I answer your horrible, terrible question, I just needed to let you know that you're a bad person because this is historically this. Bro, just, did you want to have a conversation or not?
Where they don't have to worry about their skin complexion, where they don't have to worry about if their hairstyle is suited as unprofessional or not. And I don't understand how you say that a lot of stuff is targeted towards white people when you guys made up these rules. You guys wrote the Constitution. Y'all didn't even include us. Y'all didn't see us as people when we first started off.
So already, Opus is asking, what does this have to do with any with whether America is racist today or not? And of course it doesn't. And then what is his first thing? Again, going back to, oh, well, white men were in charge before. And then saying, well, y'all, I think John Doyle is like 20. He was not writing anything when it came to the founding fathers. So nobody at this in this event is going to be part of either those who were enslaving people or those who were enslaved. And you might have ancestors, and we can talk about that, but that's not what he's saying. Hey, we got Trad Guy Travels in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. So this is better than the quinceañera right now. Save me lunch. I got you, brother. I got you.
And now we are here at a HBCU having this debate.
I agree with a lot of that, but I mean, the Constitution was written in the 18th century. This school was probably established in the 19th century. So this was
1891 to be exact.
So this was hundreds of years ago. I don't understand how that would translate to now contemporary America. I fully acknowledge that those things happened in the past, but in terms of what is affecting Black America now versus white America, I don't think that white America is the culprit.
So you don't think that white America is the culprit?
Correct.
Okay, I want to ask this again.
Sure.
So you do.
Shout out to Lil Toes. What is good? What is good? Welcome to the party. Oh, you voted no. So yeah, our poll going right now is the same question: is America racist? So we'll keep that up, but we'll keep that in mind. I mean, with the colleges choosing based on race, they definitely, yeah, that definitely is racist. But again, we're not talking about the college; we're talking about America.
Do not think that white America is the culprit.
No, sir.
Is that Cameroon?
Yeah.
So what part are you not understanding?
I don't think that white Americans are responsible for the position of Black Americans.
Okay. Hey, bring that camera closer. Bring that camera closer.
Oh, whose show is this?
Okay, look, listen. He's saying system. He's saying institutionalized. I have to disagree 100%. HBCUs were created to to fight against racism inside of classrooms.
So wouldn't that be evidence that America is at least less racist than it used to be?
If you want to talk about modern day, in 2012, I have to say 21% of African Americans were more likely to be shot by the cop just because of the whole Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman case.
Hey, we got Quick Sticks Productions in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. He said, you are watching The Nazi. I didn't know there was only one, but that is okay. We are a free speech platform, and we will push back against anything that is untoward. Welcome to the party. Wanted Foe said, there are racist Americans, but the country as a whole, no.
Bingo.
Completely agreed. And Lilto says, well, yeah, college is a part of America. So then you could say a part of America is racist, just like on what Fo is saying here. But America is racist does not, it doesn't follow if one aspect of the whole, unless that's the argument that you're making. Yeah, no, but that's pretty much what is what's implied when you say America is racist. Then by and large, it's racism when we don't see that. Hey, we got Indie Film in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party, brother. Good to see ya. Mikey Story said, maybe the question is America racist or is America selective? Well, America is definitely selective. But I think the crux of the issue is going to be moving the question from from the binary yes or no to how racist is America. I think that is, if I was to sit down with John Doyle, that would be the angle that I would try to talk about, because again, just putting it into a yes or a no doesn't tell the full story. But it's a good prompt to start a conversation.
So, your idea that racism does not exist now, when I can really get pulled over by a cop right now, I go for my license and I just get shot, and the only thing that they can say was, "Oh, I thought it was just a weapon,"
which happens 9 to 14 times a year.
And all they get is a smack on the wrist and go on about your day. But
except Derek Chauvin,
if you was in that situation and you pulled out your ID and you got shot, they're doing a whole investigation, and more than likely, he's probably going to lose his job and he's going to be serving time in jail.
What's interesting about that, that's sort of anecdotal, is when you get into like the actual statistics on like by and large, what we see is that if you control for the likelihood of being arrested and also the crimes that they're being accused of, Black Americans are not actually shot more likely than white Americans. And what's even interesting is if you look at the data for people who try to assault a police officer while they're being arrested, Black Americans are actually 40% less likely to be shot under those circumstances. So I don't think that's true. And also, if it is
that's a stat I hadn't heard before, of the people who are attacking police officers and the rate at which they are getting shot. That's an interesting one. Oh, shout out to Unwanted Foe for gifting a membership. Any donation, of course, comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you so much. Unwanted Foe, very, very much appreciated. Get you in the banner in just a second. Lars and Runes said the poll question is too vague. Is there racism? That's the point. That's the point. You guys say it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I continually say the point is not to just. The point is to get you thinking and to force you into a binary where there is none. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. I mean, we could look that up. Yeah, let's look that up. Rates of police shooting when suspect attacks officers by race. So let's see. What about unarmed and non-aggressing? Control for what happens. Geographical study. Let's see if we can just get from the conclusion. We know far more about the use of lethal force by police than we did half a decade ago. Those expecting these data to prove the extreme of existence, flagrant racial bias, are bound to be disappointed, because that is not what the numbers show. The popular narrative, this is from the Manhattan Institute, the popular narrative of homicidally racist cops everywhere is false. At the same time, much is left to learn about fatal police shootings, including whether there is a more subtle role for racial bias nationally and why racial disproportions in lethal force vary so much from place to place. More than likely, at least some places in the U.S. have very real problems in this regard, and we should want to know where they are. Perhaps we will once another half decade has passed. So, I mean, the idea here is that people are having a conversation. So we're not gonna, if you have the alternative data to debunk what somebody is saying, then great. But if you don't know where information is coming from, then go look it up. Oh my goodness. Shout out one more time to Unwanted Foe with not one, not two, but 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Let's give him a double for that one. Thank you very, very much. All right, let me get you in that banner.
The fault of white people. Why are Black officers more likely to shoot Black suspects than white officers are? Hispanics are also less likely to shoot Black suspects than Black officers are. So I don't think that you can point the finger and say this is because of white people, when even when those things do happen, the Black officers are the ones pulling the trigger.
Okay, I will not deny that that happens. But two, I need to see the statistics before I just go off of what you have to say. So if you have a reliable source about the statistics, I will gladly shut up about that.
So I'll offer you that same thing, Quick Six. If you have something that debunks what we just saw, then I'm happy to look at it, show it, and change my opinion. But as of right now, you know, you asked for a citation, and I gave it to you.
But with that going forward, it's hard to sit here and be like, oh, white people are hated on when you guys made the rules. And you guys made all of these rules, even though it was way back in what, 18...
The school was founded?
No, not here, not the school. I'm talking about everything like
America.
History. 18 what? Well, no. When was the Constitution written?
1787.
1787. So it's 2000.
No, but you can head to the Discord link in the bio.
2023, and a lot of those laws are still being used to this day. So can you also say, so we can agree that that history is affecting the present? Do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree.
Or do you want me to go into more detail about that?
I agree. I think that, if you don't mind, one of the most famous lines in the Constitution is this idea that all men are created equal, and our Supreme Court has solidified that with things like the Civil Rights Act to make.
Shout out to I Am That I Am. Welcome to the party. He said, yes, indeed, I look good, real good for being 200 years old. Not sure what you mean, but hey. Oh, for being around that long. Gotcha. Takes me a second sometimes. Unwanted Poe said rules that have been changed many times over the last 200 years. Yep.
Make that literally the law of the land. So there is no case now in contemporary America where Black Americans are discriminated against at an institutional level compared to white Americans or any other types of Americans.
Did you say you said at an institutional level?
Yeah.
At an institutional level.
Yes, sir. So you seem to keep wanting to pivot back to, the founding of America, maybe being written such.
I'm not trying
I'm
not trying to pivot. I'm not trying to pivot.
Yeah, he should have put that as a part of the prompt. Is America racist today? Because that's really the conversation that he wants to have. And you absolutely, there's heaps of just institutional and systemic racism in the history that you could point to. And so that kind of, he's not going to be able to get out of, what happened in the past because of that prompt.
I'm trying to let you understand that stuff from the past tends to affect the future.
How does it affect? That's what I'm confused on. How does that affect now?
How does it affect it now?
Yes, sir.
Which parts?
So how does the founding of America being perhaps disadvantageous to Black Americans, how does that affect the position that you guys are in now 240 years later?
Not understanding our culture, not understanding everything that comes behind us. A lot of Black people can get rejected at a job just for a hairstyle. Mm-hmm. For me right now, I have twists. I can show up to a job right now and I can get denied. Mm-hmm. Although I can meet every single requirement that they had and some.
Chill,
just off of a hairstyle. The Crown Act, please look it up. Education is very important. And you talking about inside of classrooms, a lot of Black people don't really go off to college unless it's a HBCU, or if it's the first 2 years they're doing it at a technical school and then they're transferring over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that no white people can experience at all.
So a lot of us don't really even have the funds to even attend a college.
As he's sitting at a college.
Mm-hmm. And I'm blessed to have that opportunity from my parents.
And this line of thinking is in itself racist. That towards other Black people, that Black people aren't good enough. I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the blessed ones. But everybody else, that's not a good way to think about how society operates.
In a two-parent household, but you have to understand that a lot of stuff does stem from racism.
What does the racism have to do with the lack of funding? I mean, in my opinion, I think that there's great opportunity for Black Americans to attend schools all over the country. I mean, there are so many different grants and scholarship programs that are specifically for minority students or minority applicants that white students don't get to enjoy. And even we find that Black and brown students are more likely to get scholarships when they apply versus white students because of things like that. Or even we know that when equally qualified applicants apply to a school, Black applicants are 20 times more likely to be accepted than equally qualified white students. Asians get a little bit ticked down, I think 5 or 6% less likely, simply because of things like affirmative action and this idea of progress that we've been trying to actualize throughout society.
Yeah, so you could certainly, push back against the idea that the racism is going towards white people now, but you are not going to get away with saying that racism is not mostly towards Asian students. That is the biggest and most obvious example of sheer bigotry. It's not. There's no nuance to it. It's you are this race, so you can't do that.
So I don't think it can be simply ascribed to black students aren't going to college because of racism. I think it's simply because of choices that are made within the black community that don't tend to result in that as an outcome.
And what kind of things are you talking about when you refer to the black community?
Yeah, I am Adam says Asian students are getting dinged big time, and Opus said not anymore, or no more affirmative action. Let's go Supreme Court. Yeah, I mean, I am totally in favor of trying to make equality of opportunity the law of the land and how things operate in any different sector. Affirmative action is not that. Affirmative action is a band-aid on a broken leg that on the on the part that's not broken. It's just, it sounds nice, but it's not.
I think that if you look at the data, black students don't spend as much time doing homework when they're in school. They're not as likely to.
I really want to. Hey, does anybody got a phone that can pull up this guy's statistics? I'm not trying to be mean or anything. Can anybody pull up this guy's statistics?
We'll put it on screen after, because if I say something wrong, I'm gonna get eaten alive.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is if you don't know that that what he's saying is wrong, then you're not prepared to have the conversation in the first place. Why did you sit down if you don't know what you're talking about? Opus said, I was reading about an Asian student who had a higher than 4.0 GPA in high school. He applied to like 6 Ivy League schools and didn't get into one. They doing us dirty. They doing us dirty.
So
No. Just let it ride. We don't need to be having that up anyway.
So that is true, though. And in terms of time outside of school spent doing homework, black people are much less likely to spend time doing homework than white students are. And so I think that can translate to perhaps a lesser inclination to pursue higher education. I think that if a black student wants to go to college, they have every opportunity to do so. And even people are willing to give them advantages to pursuing that. I think it's simply a matter of them not wanting to pursue it for whatever reason.
Cultural.
Well, one, you have to understand this.
So I am that Adam said blacks are now claiming they study as much as Asians. I don't think that's the case, but I mean, he might try to make that argument, but that's certainly, I don't think that's the position. And the fact is that because that's not the position, that's why he's not in a place to really push back against the notion. Because it would have to be, well, actually, black students are studying as much and they're not getting into schools. But if that's not the case, then it's not racist of him to point it out. Mikey's story said, to me, why should there be a separate college fund for minority? And yet it should be an unbiased college fund for anybody if America is not racist. Exactly. You're exactly right. And again, I'm not 100% opposed to addressing things that were unfair in terms of that equality of opportunity. And so there is, when things for to help specifically women or minorities, I don't necessarily think that it is always inherently bad. I just think that the way it's been rolled out in every area of life is not helpful. It's not helpful. Opus said, black families need to stick together and raise upstanding students the same as any other race. Single-parent homes are the bane of society. Fatherlessness is indeed an epidemic. Lars and Rouge said, yes, less black men go to college, but that's a good thing. Colleges today are indoctrination institutions. That's also very true. But if we are using it as a measurement on who is getting opportunities, then it's a good place to see, we have lots of people applying for the same position. And, unlike jobs where there's differences between this job and that job, a college education is not going to be the exact same everywhere, but that's the point of it, right? And so it's a good sample of what we're talking about. I am that I am said, how come melanin didn't cause crushing racism in Indian families and it has in black families? You're not allowed to say. You're not allowed to say.
I have to, in order for me to keep on going off of these conversations, I would love to see the statistics.
Then look them up before you sit down to have a conversation about it.
That's just me going forward. But at the same time, I can't comment on that. I can't comment on the studying situation because
struggle, dream it.
I don't know if that's true or not for me to even react. But if you're talking about the mistake,
so in that position, if you're going to, if somebody throws out a stat that seems really wild and you don't have anything to back it up, then what you want to do then is say, I don't think that's true, but let's have a conversation as if it were true. So if that were true, so then you can move the conversation along without having to concede anything that you don't know is incorrect. Is he wearing an anime waifu shirt? I don't know. Is he? Let's see.
I mean, if you're talking about,
what does waifu mean anyway? I've seen that word and I've seen it next to anime, but I don't know what it means.
How white people tend to get rejected more. You got to look at the way the economy is set up now. Majority of white people are oversaturating each profession, from STEM majors, from engineering, doctors. We need black people in those fields because that does not help. That does not help out with broadening the variety of doctors. If you just have a bunch of white doctors, then you don't really have white people. I mean, you don't really have people that can relate to their patients.
Why do you think that is? Do you not think that doctors go to school and learn about, well, first of all, the human body is essentially going to be the same for all men, all women. And then there's diversions in, slight diversions in race, but we have plenty of data on that. You don't need to be a particular race in order to read a book. It's in the book. You can just read it.
And although you talk about it from a biology perspective or anatomy perspective, it still takes a black person to understand a black person. Same way with a Mexican person.
See, that is where I would say, okay, where is that? That's a claim. That's a claim. I've never heard that it is easier for a black person inherently to understand as a, at least in the context of a doctor, it's inherently easier. Now, maybe it is, maybe it is. And maybe I have no idea, but if you can't back that up with something, an example of how that's the case or so, then again, you're just saying things. Wanted Post said he could make that argument for therapists, but most medical doctors, it won't matter.
Bingo.
Nope.
Into understanding a black person because you understand the culture, you understand what's more likely when it comes down to a patient or anything in that order. I'm sorry, it's getting windy.
So I guess I would have two questions there. One, there are a lot of programs to get specifically black students into medical school. For example, if you look at like MCAT scores, in order for a black student to get accepted into a high-level medical school, they can have a significantly lower MCAT score, I think it's in like the 600s or something, than can a white applicant or an Asian applicant. So there's that. It's a lot easier for them to get into that school. And then also, why is it better inherently?
I am the name said, call me crazy, but I want doctors that graduate at the top of their class. And you can have that opinion on the second part too. Opus said, by their own arguments, shouldn't all sports ball teams have to have equal race representation?
Yes.
But they're not gonna make that argument. Come on.
Can you go to Google?
He's gonna verify my stats. You'll see.
Yes,
You'll see.
No, I just want to verify every
No, I appreciate
stat
that.
that you read out to me before I just go off.
I appreciate that.
That's fair.
And then wouldn't you rather just have a good doctor? Why does it necessarily have to be a doctor that looks like you if you think they're going to be able to relate better to you? Why not just have the best doctor? And if they happen to look like you, it is what it is. Why does that have to be a necessity to provide you better medical care?
Exactly. So Mikey's story says there's more black athletes in entertainment than there is black doctors because not a lot of black people are becoming doctors. Crazy, right? How did that happen?
Oh, you were reading stats. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, the first question is, how can you argue that we are discouraging minority doctors when to get into a high-level medical school, black applicants are allowed to have significantly lower MCAT scores than our white applicants or Asian applicants? I can find it. Yeah.
Come on, John. Cut this stuff out. Where are we going?
But when it comes down to the medical field, you have to understand this as well. It's important to have a doctor from your cultural background.
Why?
Because a lot of our stuff tends to be neglected when it comes down to doctors of other races.
That's just not true. It may be the case that somebody who is not black or a doctor who is not black could miss something that has to do with you being black. That is not I mean, again, unless we can, I've never heard this. So again, without some kind of, some type of evidence behind this, that you have to have a doctor of your race. Otherwise, what, you're going to die? Like, what are you talking about? Unwanted Foe said, goes to the same reason why there's so few women in STEM fields. You can't force people to study what they don't want to.
Bingo.
Oh, so my last primary care doctor was an Indian man. Surprise, surprise. Did he kill you? No, he was a great doctor. Shout out to the Indians. Quick Six Productions said there's an article by the Washington Post debunked the study and the Manhattan Institute used. Okay, fair enough. So, I don't trust the Washington Post at all, but if we have opposing things, then we don't know.
It's understanding.
Huh?
It's the understanding. It's kind of like that.
What did she say?
Understanding.
It's an understandment. Okay, all right. If that's what we're doing.
Understanding. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's the understanding.
Like, yeah, of course they medically know everything, but from an understanding point, that's important.
From an understandment point. You guys get it now? An understandment point.
Yeah, okay. So from 2013 to 2016 in the United States, you can see by the MCAT score and by race, it goes up as you get darker complexion, I guess you would say.
Wait, where is that?
Possibly.
Okay. Medical schools acceptance rates by MCAT scores, GPA, race, and ethnicity. So 24 to 26.
Across all, I guess, score breakdowns, whether it's their grade point average or their MCAT score, black applicants are significantly more likely to be accepted when they have lower scores, when they have medium scores, and when they have high scores especially. So I don't understand how you could know that and then argue that there is a disadvantage for black applicants pursuing medicine or medical school or anything like that.
Wait, hold on. 32,
Like
30 to 32.
Trust me. All right,
Still
come on,
ranked.
bro. We having a conversation. This is the conversation. If you're not ready, then
Oh no, I'm just
Print it out right there to show everybody, and that way they're going to say, oh, you needed to have all your sources and everything. Well, print it out right there to show everybody, and that way they would have listened to you. And I appreciate what that's saying. I appreciate where that's coming from. It's certainly well-meaning sentiment, but it's just naive. It's misguided. I mean, look at what happened here. Okay, fact check. Let's pull it up. We'll pull it up right now. We'll do it live. Turns out I'm right. I'm correct. Okay, well, now it's not about facts anymore. Now it's about understanding. And this happens
excuse me, sir. It's understandment.
so many more times throughout this discussion, as you'll see. And so, yeah, I mean, I link all the sources in the description if you're interested in verifying the information, but I'm smart enough to know going into that it wouldn't have made a difference. And quite honestly,
All right, so let's take a look at that. Pew social trends, the role of wrestling. I'm not reading through all this. But yeah, I mean, the link to this video is in the description of my stream. So if you want to go through his, he's got his whole list of sources right here. And again, the idea, the point of my stream is not to be on a fact-checking mission. It is to judge the conversation based on the value of how we are interacting with each other. So I may be wrong about this, I may be wrong about that, but that's not, I'm not here claiming to have all the answers about everything. And yeah, if I'm wrong about something, then I'm wrong about something. I never once claimed to know everything about everything. I'm here judging the conversation based on the merits of the discussion itself.
I think the presence of the material itself is almost bad faith in its own way, because it's basically saying like, hey, look, I have an entire phone book of information about why I'm right and you're wrong. Come talk to me, come sit down. Whereas I just have this information like in my head stored, which is because I've thought these things through already. It's indicative of that. It's not just like, okay, I'm trying to epically own people, so I'm going to aggregate as much facts and logic as possible, if that makes sense. So again, I appreciate the idea behind that, but I guarantee you it would not have made that much of a difference, if anything at all. If anything, actually, I think it would have made the conversation less productive.
I agree. And yeah, quick six, that's totally fine. Again, my point here is not to be right or wrong about anything. I'm judging the conversation based on how they are interacting with each other. My whole goal is to fix political discourse in this country. So it's, you know, when we get hung up on things like the you know, particular stats and things, not to say that it's not important, but just like we do need to pay attention to what are the right facts. That is absolutely important. But for this particular channel, what we look to do is improve how we can communicate with each other, not what the information that we are communicating. And I appreciate that you are you know, here to fact check. I want to make sure we have not only diverse ideologically diverse views, but you know, I want to make sure that if something's wrong, we get it correct. But the fact is that that's not really what we're doing here. And I mean, yeah, I do think I wouldn't say right wing, I would say right of center, but yes, absolutely, that is the case.
I know, like, y'all looking at the stat point of view, but
Oh no, he just sat me down. Like,
He sat me down. He sat you down, or you sat down?
me down.
oh,
I'm not. This is not my table.
oh no, I'm just saying. I understand you're looking at the stats point of view and how like there are higher levels within.
Would you
the
mind handing me
stats.
that actually?
Your coffee?
Yeah. Thanks, man.
But it's more of being black. Like, it's true. Being black in America is hard. It is.
Being alive is hard. Being in America at any race is the one of the biggest lottery winning things that you could possibly do. Not necessarily. I think there's definitely ways that we could do it that it wouldn't be communist. And I would love if we could figure that out and get that, because I do believe that it doesn't make sense for a country like us not to be able to provide our citizens with at least basic healthcare.
We have to work harder to be seen as or be close to equivalent to our white counterparts. So
There was a sign. The sign fell. The sign read that America. The sign read that America is not racist. I'm inviting people to have a conversation with me.
America as a country is not racist?
As a country, as a people, I just don't think we're racist.
So do you think racism doesn't exist?
Oh, I think it definitely exists. I think it's more likely to exist presently in the form of like anti-white racism.
Anti-white
racism?
Okay, no, don't laugh. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm really if we curious just take it back to the furthest point of history, like to the beginning of America, what was our economy built on?
Do you mind if I finish the conversation with him?
No,
and then we can get into that?
It's a conversation for all of us.
But I'm
Okay.
That's right, I'm
It's
asking
not
you,
like a lot of
Sure.
What was our
See, why are you letting him run the show, bro? Why are you letting him run the show? Crowder's not going to let that happen.
what was our economy built on? When black people were seen as 3/5 of a person, things like that. I mean, when we were seen as chattel, not even real humans, what was that? That's the foundation of this country. The forefathers, every president, like not every president, but every president in the first like years of this country,
Right.
it was built on the fact that black people were less than. Even, and I just came from history right now. We just looked at the chart.
Okay, and that's all great, but that doesn't help us understand whether or not we are today, right now, living in a racist country. Those people are all dead. So you can make the argument that their ideas have been passed down, but you're not making that argument.
Yeah, we just looked at the chart where the white man
chart?
was saying that the first level of like
Max.
a developed human was a white man. Then under that was Asian people. Under that
Yeah.
was the Native American, and then the black person was the lowest level because they were not considered human. So what is that? That is the foundation of this country.
Right.
And no matter how much we develop, no matter how far up we go, that is the foundation of this country. So how can something that we were built on not be what we are?
Well, I think that what you're referring to, I mean, this country formally is only like 240 something years old, but I mean, the civilization's been here for like 600 something years. I don't think that the injustices of the past actually reflect and translate to the injustices that are claimed now. Such as what? Such as what?
There we go. Now, so if you missed that, someone's what about the injustices of today? For those looking at the shirt, that looks, you should be able to pick that out. But so somebody said, what about the injustices of today? Now we're getting on to the actual conversation that he, and again, this is on Doyle for not putting today. The word today at the end of his prompt would have completely changed the framing of this conversation. Wednesday Foe said, man, I hope he brings up the who sold the slaves to Americans. And the Mikey story says, this sounds like sign language from her. Shout out to the late, great Kevin Samuels. And it is the Kevin Samuels Men's Week. So definitely go check out his channel. There's some stuff that he's putting out there. But yep, shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right.
Oh, hell no.
It is what it is. Maybe modern women.
We do. I appreciate the democratized dialogue, but the idea was to kind of have a one-on-one so that we're not in a shouting match or all just trying to talk over each other. So,
We're not in the shop.
well, not shouting, but you know what I mean. It's just we've got like 5 or 6 different questions at once here. So I fail to see, and I would love to know, I'm not coming at this in bad faith, how the injustices of America in its colonial days translate now to the disadvantageous position of Black Americans in 2023.
Guys, we got 9 people in the building. Can I just get 3 more likes? Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, sir, Ian.
How did you not get reparations?
Sir,
Here, may I?
have you ever heard the statement 40 acres and a mule?
Yeah.
And how that was taken away?
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can say that this country and the colonial days don't translation into today when we still follow the laws that were written back when. And I mean, they've changed and they've gotten better.
Which laws?
But
What
if
are
we just
talking
get
about?
rid of all that, forget the laws, forget everything.
Well, you just brought up the laws. We're talking about the we're talking about the injustices of today, and you said the laws, and then you said forget the laws. Before we could even get to which laws you're talking about, then we're saying forget the laws. I don't understand what point you're trying to make. And Quick Six, again, I do very much appreciate your your interest. I would love if you join the Discord so we can have these full conversations, because I don't want to detract from the show too much. But I'm pretty sure you understand where I'm coming from with the trans ideology. I often will say that it's very important to distinguish between the LGBT activists, the people who are trying to push trans ideology, and those who are either have just happen to have a different sexual orientation or gender identity. Those are 2 very distinct groups in my mind, and I believe that the activists are specifically and directly trying to target children to into their ideology, as we saw them chanting out loud just this week. So yeah, I mean, like I said, we're not gonna. I very much appreciate the questions. Again, I would love if you could join the Discord. We could have these long form discussions after every panel. We go right over, or excuse me, after every stream, we go right over there to have a video panel, and you would be more than welcome. So I don't want to just detract too much from the topic we have at hand, but feel free to say whatever you like.
Let's just talk about how many years of a head start that white people got when our people were working to make wealth for your families, that your families passed on to each other. And then we were given freedom, and then we were just given like, okay, well, now we all are free. We all can work and we all can do this. Why aren't you doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
So that's a good point. That's a good point that, people who were not who were not slaves had a head start. Okay, so then stick on that point.
But the things that you guys had, the houses, the money, all the stuff that you guys were able to inherit from your grandparents, our grandparents couldn't give that to us. The only thing our grandparents could give us was songs and stories.
Yeah.
We didn't have the money that you guys received.
You know that they paid the slave master once they freed all the slaves.
Even when slavery was abolished, the way that mass incarceration was used to reinstate
So now we're moving on. Now we're moving on. Let's stick on the one thing at a time, especially when there's 5 of you surrounding the table. We have to have a focused dialogue.
And then
This is why he shouldn't be allowing so many people to have the conversation at once.
and it was like they had to pay. They had all these. I'm sorry. I'm kind of pissed off right now because this is happening during Black History Month. So excuse that I can't talk.
What better time though,
But-
right?
I feel like everybody should back up from the table. But I just feel
The belief that a male can transform into a female.
like you can't say that what happened in colonial days and even after colonial days doesn't translate into today because it is all a domino effect.
My country didn't come here till the 80s. Yeah, I said many immigrants came here in the 20th century. My parents came here in the early 80s. So, and I'm not white. So, how do I fit into this? How do I fit into this? Professional victims. Yup.
If we just get rid of everything and just look at the generational wealth that your family was allowed to pass down onto each other, not your family specifically.
Shout out to St. Michael. Welcome to the party.
Directly about you, but the white man, the amount of things that you guys were allowed to pass down that we don't have, and a lot of Black people that have wealth right now, they actually had to work for that. A lot of white people that have wealth right now, their parents were able to give them, just Donald Trump, for example, the $1 million head start.
Okay. Of course, that is a huge, huge privilege. Do you think the average American, do you think the average white person is getting a $1 million endowment from their father? This is the problem with seeing everything through white and black. That has to do with one person, or rather a class of people, not a race of people.
And so you're talking about MCAT, all that stuff. Even when Black people get the degrees that they have and they're let into schools easier because they're Black, when they get out into that job field, what white man at a top company is going to say, yeah, let me hire this Black person? Otherwise, beyond
Lots. Are you saying that there's no Black people in high places in office?
on the fact of having a token Black person so their company looks diverse. The only reason they hire Black people nowadays is because they want to look like, oh, I'm not racist, but diversity hire.
You need to read more, brother, because they absolutely are.
So there's a lot there. The first thing I want to mention, just before I forget, you mentioned reparations, for example.
Hey, shout out to Smith 45 ACP said just found the channel and subscribed. Welcome to the party. We got John Doyle here at HBCU doing a change my mind, and his prompt is America is not racist. Welcome to the party. St. Michael said the black-white income gap does not rationalize or justify anything she said at all. Nope. Mikey says, why does all of this have to do, or what does all of this have to do with America today? And again, unfortunately, this is on John Doyle because today is not part of the prompt. And so he is giving a lot of space because a lot of American history had a lot of racism. And so if he's trying to talk about today, then he messed up by not putting that word. Who's what? Lars and Rune said, ha, girl, none of your ancestors were slaving for mine. Both of our ancestors have been slaving for the rich. There you go. It is classism, not racism. That's the biggest problem. Ova said there are gifted subs if you guys change your settings under join to accept gifts. Yes, we had Unwanted Foe gifted 5 memberships. So all you got to do is what exactly Opus is saying, and you get a free month of memberships.
Yeah,
it is right. It is true that there's never been a program that has specifically said here is a cash voucher for the experience of your ancestors during slavery. However, if you look at who pays the most into the tax system in this country, historically, it has been white Americans and also Asian Americans. And if you look, I know we got to go one at a time though. And if you look at who has taken more out of the system, it has been Black Americans. And we've spent over $1 trillion since the 1960s on the war on poverty, which disproportionately has gone to Black Americans. So in a way, say that has been reparations.
And go into the statute.
You also mentioned, before I forget, the corporate America. I think there was a report done by the S&P or on the S&P 100, and it found that something like 75% of the S&P 100 companies all have initiated some form of program to hire specifically minority applicants, and you know they're looking to get. But that's
I'll continue to answer your questions if you can tell me what a woman is.
happening now. So my point is, what you're talking about is, you know, a black applicant going to a job and being discriminated against because of their race. The opposite is happening. They're being prioritized because of their race. And you might say, well, they want to have a token. They're still getting that job. They're still getting money. Talking about affirmative action.
Can I make mention of the point that you just made?
Do you mind if I hit on the generational wealth thing, and then I'll let you talk again, just because you made that point? I don't think that's.
All right.
That's true. It's tough to capture all this.
Are you all together? What group is this? What is this?
We're just going to post this on YouTube. So it's a conversation, and more people can see the conversation. Yeah. My name is John Doyle.
Okay, this all should have been edited out. What are you doing here, John?
We'll have a conversation about it because a lot of people that are like you guys don't actually want to talk. But just back to the point where you said certain companies open up organizations and stuff so that they can hire black people or just people of specific like minorities.
Yeah.
They have to do that because they don't want to look racist. As soon as a company is posted on Instagram, TikTok in this day and age saying, oh, you guys only have white people, you guys only hire straight people, all that stuff, they're going to get canceled. They're not doing that.
Doesn't that prove that the power's on your side, though?
So at first, we can't get anything because we're black. Now we say, oh, well, we can get everything, but it's because it's racist and they're just trying to be fake nice. So at what point is you, let's just say, theoretically, you had all the same rights as a white or Chinese or Indian person. At what point is that good enough that they, like, there's this, that notion that the government actually cares about white people more than black people. I got a surprise for you. They don't give a shit about any of us. Lars Maroon said, I've got a BET Awards ad while I'm watching. Oh, man. Shout out to YouTube. As
a generation, we are all into the emotions and stuff like it, but let's keep it real. The money is where the power is. And if you are the one that's distributing the money and you're the one giving the jobs, you're going to always have the power.
Facts. So who are the ones that are having the power? Is it rich people, or is it only is it more represented by rich people or white people? Rich people.
That's where it is.
Even in the workforce, we have to dress
I gotta
a
go
certain
because
way.
I'm really hungry.
It was nice.
The other girl was like, well, we're in the workforce. We have to dress a certain way and talk a certain way. Honey, welcome to corporate America. That's everybody.
Speaking with you.
Find a stopping point.
Real.
Get everybody back up.
All right. You're gonna take off? Yeah. All right, man. It was really nice talking to you. I appreciate you sitting down, being our inaugural
It was
one.
nice having a conversation with you until that last part. I'm not going to hold you.
All right, man. It is what it is. So if one of you guys wants to sit down, we do want to try to keep it like individual just because it's tough to capture all this. And sure, we'll be here. We'll be here until 3 o'clock. So if you guys want to hang out or sit down, whoever, would you like to?
I really want to get your view on.
Wait. What did you want to get my view on? You get to find out right now. But
Yes, we do.
your dad won late for 5 kills. Way very epic.
I don't know how
Aha!
to said. I don't want to get it wrong.
Do you mind if I ask your name?
Lyric.
My name is John. Nice to meet you.
America is not racist.
True.
Facts.
Real.
No, that's a lie.
No, and it's so
That's your
true.
opinion.
Well, that is true. And I would love to hear this young lady's opinion as well. So just to sort of reiterate, I have a sign here. It reads, America's not racist. Change my mind. I'm, of course, open to having my mind changed, but I don't believe that America is racist at an institutional level. I don't believe American people are racist. And I would just be curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, I do remember skipping through. I believe this part of the video is a little bit more focused.
Okay. Well, I feel like explaining my thoughts on it wouldn't actually do you any well, because I feel like
Then why are you sitting down? Oh my God, this is the semantic obfuscation. It's not changing the specific word. It's front loading by saying, well, no matter what I say, you're not going to change your mind. So that even if you have terrible arguments, which he's not going to change his mind from terrible arguments, you're giving yourself an out. well, nothing I'm going to say is going to change your mind anyway. So, but let's just sit here and have this pointless discussion that I am projecting that I'm the one who's actually not going to change my mind regardless of what you say.
You already have an idea that you're going to stick with, but I have a question for you. Since we were just talking, you mentioned that you feel that it's actually we're racist to white people.
Yeah.
I know you didn't say that exactly, but I just want to know your ideas on that.
So before he says anything, I would like to address that because I do absolutely want to distance myself from, being from John Doyle. I don't think that he is somebody that that represents what I think. I think he happens to be right on this one thing, but the idea that America's racist towards white people, I don't see that. But I do see that white people are the last, white men really are the last group in this identity politics, crossover. If you're a white, straight, cis man, then you can get a lot more racially charged insults thrown your way than you could throw towards anybody who would throw them your way.
Sure. So racism as a word, I know that the definition, some people say it's prejudice, some people it's power plus prejudice. Are you familiar with the concept of like an in-group preference?
In-group, why do you know what a preference is?
So like this is this trend in psychology that we tend to see where people of different races all demonstrate an in-group preference, meaning if you poll 100 Hispanic people on who they want to be around, on average, they're going to tend to want to be around Hispanic people more. Black people have the same, white people have the same. But if you look at the data and quantify this, what we see is that Black Americans actually have the highest in-group preference, meaning you guys want to stick together the most. And I'm going to post it all in the video if you watch it. Okay, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, but it is true. I'll get eaten alive if I get something wrong. So it is true. But if you look at white Americans, they actually have the lowest level of in-group preference, meaning white people, especially white liberals, actually prefer to be around people of other races rather than their own. White conservatives do demonstrate a small in-group preference. But in terms of all the races, white people tend to have the smallest and Black people tend to have the largest.
And this is something that I learned in my own psychology courses in college, and I graduated in 2012. So that is something that has been around before all of this white guilt became the norm. So I can only imagine that it's gotten worse.
Moreover, if you look at how different races rank each other, what we see is that white Americans rank themselves pretty much in the middle, every other race also pretty much in the middle, but every other race, whether it's Hispanics, Asians, or Blacks, all rank themselves the highest in terms of who they want to be around, and they all rank whites the lowest. I don't know why, maybe we're just that off-putting. Everyone wants to be around a white person. Look at you right now, you all want to be around the white people. Okay. I appreciate that. Yes.
You don't have the smarts.
Okay.
True. And that's a good point. That's a good point.
So,
Yeah, nobody was ever claiming that he didn't want to be around Black people.
You want to be around Black people.
You guys make great music.
you think we're being racist to white people?
You guys.
Excuse me.
Music is a microaggression?
You saying that in the context of what you just said.
We're only good enough for.
No, but I mean, the most popular music in this country, whether it's now or even dating back to rock music, has all been influenced by Black people.
Everything is
Okay,
So you
sorry.
think racism for we're racist to white people because we don't want to be around you. You think that's what racism is?
I think that's part of it. But I think if we're talking about racism just at the most individual level, I think that's true. But then if you expand even to the way this country works, there are lots of disadvantages written into the law to discriminate against white men in terms of getting into college, getting jobs. And the opposite is given to minorities, specifically Black applicants, whether it's in the workforce or in academia. And those have been written into the law.
That wasn't me. I don't know. I think that was the stream that just got a little bit louder. If you want to adjust your volume. The Larry, welcome to the party. Good to see you, Larry. Larry says this streamer is a parent-funded adult. Okay, fair enough.
Which maybe you agree with because you think that's necessary to correct disparities of days past. But in terms of 2023 America, right now, it is easier to achieve success as a non-white person, specifically, non-white person than a white man.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I feel as though, like, okay, so, like, let's say, let's do an example. Let's use law, for example. This African-American graduated and a white person graduated. They go for the same job. I feel like you would get the job more than a black person would. Because
Statistically, that's not true. Statistically,
But are you?
if they're equally qualified, the black person will get the
But you
job.
would get paid more though if you want to be honest because
Nope.
you're against them.
That's also not true.
Okay, but if you look at
Right. I'm sorry. She's screaming into the mic.
these schools, the ones where you're saying that black people are getting admitted to more easier, they're still majority white schools.
Wouldn't that be good?
Why do you feel like that would be good?
Hey, shout out to Lars and Room for the 149 super sticker. And of course, every single super chat super sticker comes with, oh, it didn't even show him. I'll just have him jump up. Come on, boy, Morty. Good job. There we go. Thank you, Lars and Rune for Morty. Very much appreciated.
They're getting into college. What does it matter if they're majority white?
Because they're still admitting black people to these schools, but there's still a lot of white people who are getting into these schools.
Oh no, we can't have white people getting educated.
Yeah.
So you just said white people are not getting into schools. How is that the case if it's still majority white people in these schools?
Well, I think proportions matter because it's still a majority white country.
He didn't say that no white people are getting into college. For you to think that that's a position that he's holding is okay.
And so if you have, black Americans who are 13% of the population at a lot of these schools relative to their merit, meaning how their scores are, how their grades are, they are more likely to get accepted into these elite institutions. And if you look at the group that is the least likely based purely on merit, it's actually white Americans. And interesting, you guys might have been following this recently with the Supreme Court dealing with affirmative action. One of the things that was brought up by one of the attorneys, which is now on record, which I thought was really interesting, was somebody asked, well, why do you have to take race into account when you're admitting students? Why not just take into account socioeconomic factors? And what they found is that, and they said this, they can't do that because when they do that, it ends up favoring disproportionately white people, which means that if you look at, kids who are, no, I'm just saying that if you look at kids who are in poor economic circumstances, who are then applying to these schools, they can't just give a leg up to kids who are poor, because then if you're looking at merit by itself, the white students still tend to perform better. And so that's why they have to specifically take race into account. I don't think we have better education.
Where? Better education? Where? We were just talking about how they're making all these arrangements for people to get into schools and lower scores and so on and so forth. So how are the resources better?
Okay, but if you want to talk about better education, okay, we already know that blacks, whites, they all tend to live in the same area, right? Okay, so, and the way they pay for school is by taxes from your area.
Yeah.
So people normally in like black schools, Hispanic schools, their schools are going to be aren't as good as if you go to a area with white school. I'm not even talking about private schools. I'm talking about regular schools. The white areas are going to have better education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't see the disadvantage there already?
Okay, but you're assuming that that's because of race. You are assuming that, oh, black people have it worse and white people have it better in this stance, so it must be racism. Correlation does not equal causation. And again, you are free to make that argument, but you have to make that argument. You can't just claim it and say, well, the black people are worse off. Okay, is there a reason? Completely agree, Opus. That is why we need school choice. 100% agree with that.
I don't understand what that has to do with racism now.
Why do you think
I would imagine that it's probably because the black areas tend to generate less tax revenue to go. So why is that because of racism though? I'll give you an example. If you look at funding that is going from the federal level or the state level to these schools, black students actually per pupil receive 1% greater funding than white students for education. So if you guys,
you don't even know, you didn't even bother asking. You couldn't define it, and then you didn't even bother asking, and you're assuming.
To receiving greater education funding, how can you argue that the education? So we're pivoting from education to economics. We gotta stick on at least one thing. We also know with education, black students tend to go to schools that hire teachers with better qualifications. They have a smaller class size on average. So by any metric that you would try to measure a successful school, other than test scores, you would see that black schools actually tend to be better in this case. So I don't understand how it's because of racism.
Nah. That's the argument. Nah, bro.
Longer though, because we're labeled that we're the bad school, that everybody there doesn't really know.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
About that, the reparations that you mentioned earlier, is this what you're talking about?
Right now,
The way that we get our funding for schools?
No. I mean, the reparations and welfare payments.
But do white people not also receive welfare?
It's disproportionately.
Yeah, that's a bad argument. That the welfare is not a stand-in for reparations. I'm not even saying we should have reparations. I'm not saying we shouldn't have reparations, but that is not a stand-in for reparations.
Yes, they do.
Why do you?
Because white people don't need welfare. Why?
Well, I don't think that's true either.
Many white people need welfare.
Okay, I have a question for you.
I don't think that's
Can
true
I ask
either.
you a question,
Yes,
please?
yes.
So I just want to know your thoughts. What do you think racism is?
I think, as I described earlier, I think racism is basically in-group preference. I think it's prejudice.
Never experienced that, so obviously.
That's not true.
Oh, another. It's so funny when you see the similarities in people. Like, you've never experienced racism.
What?
Oh, you know all of John Doyle's history then. Oh, you don't. You're just saying things.
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced racism as a white man in America. Think about it.
Right now, you're telling him that he doesn't have, this, that, and the other because he's white.
Yeah, I can. Sure. Again, we're going to have to keep this more individualized. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to be productive.
The difference
Yes, sir.
between black people not liking white people and white people not liking black people is if you're white and you're racist, you don't like me because I'm black. If I'm black and I don't like you because you're white, I don't like you because of my history with white people and because of my ancestors' history.
Okay, so that's just racism for two different reasons. It's not two different things. They're both racism. They're just racism for different reasons.
I don't think that's true.
That is true. We don't like white people because of how they treated us.
That's racism. That is the definition of racism. You saw white people in the past doing a thing, and so now you ascribe that to all white people. That is what we call racism.
Like, because of what we see in the history books, every time you open a history book and there's a black person in it, there's always something about what a white person did. That's all we see. White people who don't like me because I'm black. I'm not, they can't say that I'm loud. They can't say that I commit crimes. I don't do any of that. I literally I say to myself when I go to school, if they don't like me because I'm black.
Okay, so do you? I'm sorry. Do you think that like historically, like redlining and like how it was hard for, even when slaves were free, they had troubles getting schooling, like they couldn't go to college, they had all these things that they had to do.
They keep pointing out things that were racially not ideal, but you're not what about it? It was bad, yes. What about it? What does that have to do with America being racist?
Yeah.
Do you think that that doesn't play into it at all?
I don't, and I'll explain why. There was research done that compared the descendants of children who were born to freed blacks and children who were born to slaves. And what they found, as you would expect, is children who were born to parents who were freed slaves were less likely to be able to get jobs, to obtain education, to obtain wealth. But what they found is after 2 to 3 generations, those descendants pretty much matched up in terms of their ability to have wealth, to get jobs. So what we see is,
What about compared to white people?
white people were still better off, yeah.
And why is that? Is it because they started off better off? Because they already had the education? Like, people weren't burning down their schools when they were trying to build these colleges and stuff for them. Like, the wealth that they've had from slavery and stuff, and already the education, that's passed down already.
Yeah.
So basically, we had to start over. Well, we had to start from the bottom. They were already up here and then catch up. Would you say, in your opinion, we have caught up yet?
I don't think so, but I do think it's true that generational wealth doesn't really translate well between generations. Like if you look even...
Yeah, that's true. Generational wealth typically goes about 3 generations. And again, we're just talking about stuff that was bad. You're not making the argument. And this is, again, why we're looking at something like this, because we don't have the ability to articulate what's in our head and what's in our hearts to the people who need to hear it. Hey, we got Mike in the building. Welcome to the party. Said, what is racism? Don't answer the question because you can't, because you're white. Pretty much. Luto said, why do black people hate my skin color, Jesus? Well, apparently it's because of your ancestors. Quick Six says, I know the right are anti-intellectual and generally anti-thinking beyond fortune cookie philosophy, but come on, man, do better. All right, I'll try. I'll do my very, very, very best just for you.
Between like white Americans with generational wealth, if you take like a white person who's in the top 20% of income, that person is relatively likely to stay there. But if you take like a black person who was born into the top 20% of income, for whatever reason, that black person has an equally likely chance of slipping into the bottom 20% as they do remaining in the top 20%. So even when black Americans have that generational wealth you're talking about, it's not what.
And there's the emotional, like, you don't have an argument. You don't have an argument. You don't have a rebuttal. Why do you care so much? Because this is important. Why do you not care enough to know this?
I like to have research so I can come have these conversations.
What's your point?
I'm not wrong, though. No, this is from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, Bureau of Labor Statistics. So white people are incapable of honesty. We're misaligned with the reality.
All the history books are lies. They don't even tell like the real type shit.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
See, I don't think they would want the same history book. I don't think they would want it reading the same.
Teacher, I did not know half of this shit.
Sorry?
You say history books lies, you agree. What specifically do you agree with?
In history?
Uh-oh.
I believe that America is fundamentally like the greatest country in the world.
Why do you believe that?
Why do you believe that?
Yeah. Why do you believe that?
Well, I think that
History brings that.
Yeah, what's so great about it? Was it the slavery? Was it the killing of innocent
It was the ending of slavery.
black people?
it was not. Do you mind if I really quick just about the slavery thing? You know that America wasn't the country that invented slavery,
Oh, we
right?
have mentioned chattel slavery. Everybody.
Wait, did they just say yes? Wait. They think one of the youngest countries, is it the youngest? One of the youngest countries in the world invented slavery? I gotta hear that again.
Innocent black people?
It was not. Do you mind if I really quick just about the slavery thing? You know that America wasn't the country that invented slavery,
Oh, we
right?
have mentioned chattel slavery.
Okay, I'm learning something. America invented slavery.
We had slavery. We invented chattel slavery.
The Americans,
Chattel slavery
all
was
European
invented.
countries that
Americans.
colonized the Americas.
Doesn't
All
make
the
it
chattel
other,
slaves throughout the
listen,
Caribbean.
all the other countries had domestic slavery.
Yeah.
You know, different slavery. We had slavery to where like you're tearing down black people, basically like
Right.
a genocide in a way.
Right. So those.
You don't think that's bad?
And that's not the only thing they've done to
Again, you don't think that's bad? When did anybody say that wasn't bad? You're morally grandstanding because you can't have the conversation.
just our people.
I got next.
Those slave routes weren't invented by Americans. The slave routes were capitalized on. So let me just make.
Yep, apparently unwanted vote. USA invented child slavery before child soldiers in Africa. I didn't know that, but we're all learning.
Make sure we understand here, because oftentimes I know that this is like kind of dispelled throughout history. We arrived on African land and purchased slaves that were already enslaved by warring African tribes. We know that, right? It's not like roots where we were going into the jungle and they were bringing them over. Right, right.
That was slavery by tribal warfare. Here, people within the Americas were literal property. Within African slavery, that was slavery by prisoners of war, by tribal warfare.
Is that a better kind of slavery?
Yeah, what? What does that even mean?
No.
Okay, so if it's not a better kind of slavery, then what are you talking about?
Okay, to me it sounds like you're trying to justify that fact.
Oh, no.
You can actually.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
Well, what I meant with our conversation was, I don't think it's, if I may, I don't think it's fair to condemn America for slavery when even in terms of the Western Hemisphere, most of the slaves that were coming from Africa were going to South America. We got like a fraction of them, and we also fought a war where all of that generational wealth that you're referring to in the South was set to zero. 600,000 white people died to free black slaves. And
who cares about that? Who cares about freeing black people, says the people on a black college campus.
What?
You can't make this shit up.
I'm sorry. First off, that the war that you're referring to.
Taken from their home.
yeah.
referring
But
to?
sir, it doesn't really matter if America's part was big or small.
Okay, I have a question. Because the war you're referring to, it wasn't actually to free slaves. One, it was more about money. And second off, if it really was about freeing slaves, why do we have the Jim Crow laws and all that afterwards? And it was never, it was
because America was racist. America is no, I mean, it's not perfect by any means. There absolutely is racism, but America as a culture is not racist. Mike says, I'm an 80s kid and the race relations was way better when I was a kid than it is now. We're going in the opposite direction. So maybe it's becoming a more racist country, but in the way that Doyle is talking about, where race is becoming the predominant thing that people think about and talk about, and the lens through which everything gets filtered. It's not, I'm telling you, that's not the way to go.
It was never about freeing slaves. It was
I
not.
agree with that, actually.
But
it is true.
You say that America wasn't the only one with slaves, and America had a small part. Slaves in Africa, after they did their time, they were allowed to assimilate back into African society because they were still people. And also, slavery in America was not based on the color of your skin. It was based on what you were born into. When you got to America, that's when they start whipping you and start saying you don't have any rights.
You're right, because there were white slaves in America as well. They were actually treated worse, like indentured servitude.
They were indentured.
And they were actually treated worse in many cases than slaves were. They were.
They were indentured servants, not.
I don't know if I want to stand by that. I don't know if I want to just let that play and not say that. I'm not going to stand by that.
The difference in names means everything right there.
Listen, can I say something?
Yeah.
When a white person was to rape a black person and they were to have a baby, you usually would follow the dad. So if the dad was white and you rape a black woman, your child would be free. In America, they changed that law so that you follow the mom. So
Wait. So did she just say that in America they changed that law? Okay, just making sure. Wanted Foe said John needs to go back to the 1v1 debate again. Pink shirt needs to sit down rather than shouting from the mob. Yeah, and that again, that's on John. If you're gonna hold an event, you need to be able to bring, like when Crowder does it, there's a bunch of people there. There's space around them. They're making sure, and I understand. I'm not shitting on him for it, but I'm just saying you have to be prepared for this. And by the way that Crowder would address that is just kind of ignore it and put it on the person he's sitting with. When he's saying you're not respecting the person I'm sitting with by yelling, so respect them. Don't worry, you can disrespect me all you want, but you're disrespecting in this case her. So if he had done that, then it would have been a stronger way to frame it. But he's lost control.
that the child would still be enslaved. That is racist.
Yeah.
Like that just proves that you're wrong.
And I hear what you're saying, but we're talking about something that happened hundreds of years ago. But I haven't heard how it's demonstrated.
How? Exactly. How? Fine. That's your claim. That it happened hundreds of years ago, but it's affecting you now. Okay. How?
How it's demonstrated today.
Yeah, how it is translated
into our law system.
Yeah.
I know how it's translated.
Why are you here? Like,
That's very right.
why did you come here? No, just like why did you choose this campus?
Yeah.
Sign language.
I'll tell you.
Exactly.
Obviously, he's here to try to rile us up, to make us mad.
So then why are you engaging with what he's doing right now? They're about to go and post
yes, I know, but I want to hear you.
Well, I appreciate that.
They're going to post your face on social media. They're going to come and post all these people that are upset about it.
I wanted to have
Why
a
did
conversation.
they choose this campus, though? UNCG is
I don't think
down the
America's
road.
racist yet.
Yeah. So because people will threaten you, you should not talk. Because people will threaten you, you should stand down and listen to whatever the mob says. That's what they believe. Hey, shout out to Nick. Welcome to the party. Nick says, if we invented slavery, did we also invent time travel to introduce it to everyone in the past? Anyway, have a wonderful day. You as well. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see ya.
Why are
white people speaking for us, or do we want black people speaking for us?
At the end of the day, why are we explaining this right here is provocation? They set up shot
Provocation.
so you have to come around and gather around and put their cameras in your face.
So, like, do you think this is right to like be here?
Yeah.
It's not even about what's right or wrong.
Perpetual victimization. I'm just a guy sitting at a table with a sign. and y'all are mobbing around me, if nobody's holding you there, unlike these slaves that you're talking about, you can just walk the fuck away. Oh no, my button went out.
Nice talking to you as well. We got into this weird exchange about chattel slavery, which they said white people invented, and which they said was worse than African slavery, where you're enslaved by a tribe you're warring with, because at least in that case, you have a greater chance of being free. Not sure how that squares with POWs and slaves just being killed once they're no longer needed, or being castrated and sent east, which is why they don't have African populations over there like we have here in the Western Hemisphere. Just a very bizarre line of argument. Wow. I thought, like, yeah, you know, obviously all slavery is bad, but if I'm a slave, I'd rather be considered property than just a prisoner, because then there's an incentive to keep me alive because I can be traded, I can be sold, etc. But if I'm a prisoner, I can just be killed when I'm no longer useful.
That's a harsh point, but I fail to see where he's wrong. That's a harsh point. But if we can agree, obviously, that all slavery is bad, then you not having the value would change how you're treated. And again, I'm not going to say that, you know, they were all African slaves were treated better than all American slaves or all anything. I'm just saying an interesting point.
When there's suspicion of mutiny as revenge since we're at war, whatever, which is exactly what happened, by the way. And again, I'm not excusing any components of slavery, but if we can just be adults for a second and speak candidly about things, I think we'd all be better off. And the point on the racism definition, which I wish we got to expand on, was to say what most woke people would define as racism isn't actually racism. They're just trying to pathologize in-group preference. I'm comfortable with racism being defined as prejudice based on race, but with that definition, we see that white people are actually the least racist and black people are the most racist. Surveys, blind jury studies, etc. But of course, it gets to a point now where I'm supposed to justify my existence being there because we can't just have a conversation. They want to question and attack my sources, question and attack me. And what's interesting is that there are a lot of instances where there's a point that's disproved, and sometimes they even concede that, and then they just immediately try to pivot to something else. Like, this is true. No, it's not. Well, yeah, but that's because of this. That's not true either. Well, yeah, but that's because of this, et cetera, et cetera. Moreover, when they say race,
that is not argumentation. That is not, I mean, technically it is, but that is not how you formulate an argument. That is not how you prove a point. You have to have a claim, and you have to have an argument behind why that claim is correct. Otherwise, you're just saying things.
Racist things, not like in white people, the violent backlash on social media, nobody spoke up. Only a few students were like, hey, chill out. The rest just went along with it, even if not instigating directly themselves.
Hence the mob mentality.
Just an interesting observation.
What's your name? John. Nice to meet you. You know my position, I imagine. I'd be curious to get your thoughts.
I just want to ask you some questions first, because I've seen a lot of recruiting videos before. I've seen what kind of goes into what y'all are doing. No, don't do that.
I don't think that's a good idea. Look, I mean, I just don't think that's a good idea.
Why? I mean, if you're trying... I don't know if I can say this. But you're not helping your case. That's all I'm going to say.
No, I mean, we got private security there. Don't do it. Look, here's it. Because, bro, hear me out. If you do that, you're going to make them look bad, and they're going to get mad at me. So, like the people talking. You know what I mean. The people talking.
That's what I was saying. You know.
I just have a YouTube channel. My name is John Doyle. I upload this stuff on YouTube.
What is your YouTube channel?
The name is John Doyle.
Okay, what is it about?
I talk about politics.
Hey, we got Just Talk About It in the building. Welcome to the party. Said, who is America? That's a good question. Who do you think America is? Welcome to the party.
I'm conservative, obviously, and you can probably ascertain. So, yeah, just talk about politics.
You're not coming in, like you said, to not assume anything. I'm not assuming anything about you. So
I appreciate that.
Why do you come to an HBCU to talk about politics?
Well, I'm talking specifically about racial politics, and my thinking, which maybe was misguided, I thought it would be better to talk about racial politics at an HBCU than just an average college campus. I thought.
Imagine that. Imagine having the respect for your culture and your race to speak to you directly instead of just speaking to other white people who are going to, be the white savior for you. treat you with the respect of being a human being that can handle having a normal conversation. Well,
that it would be better to get the perspective of Black Americans than it would be to talk to a bunch of like white liberal students about what they think about racism. I'm being told that this was insensitive and misguided, so I've learned something, but I think that my intention was at least good.
Okay, so why do you want us to talk about politics?
Well, because I want to get your opinion.
But politics is very broad, as you know, so about what?
Racial politics.
I don't know. Maybe the giant sign in front of the table? Just thought.
Because I think there's a huge discussion right now about racism. It's been going on for a while, and typically the accusation is that America, white people are, whether they know it or not, oppressing non-white people, and particularly Black people, largely because of our shared history in this country. And I just think it's important to have a conversation about that.
Okay, would you say that there's a difference between what people say and what they mean?
Sure.
Okay, so when people say white people are being oppressive, do you think they mean that institutions in America are oppressing them? Do you think that's
Sometimes I think that's what they mean, yeah.
Okay, so if you don't...
It means whatever they need it to mean in the moment. That is the point of semantically obfuscating these words like racism and systemic and oppression and all of these things, so that whenever it comes up, if it's convenient to talk about systemic racism in institutions, then you can go that direction. If it's more convenient for you to talk about white guilt and inherent this and whatever, whatever else, then you can just switch it up in the moment. That is the whole point. That is the whole point of having these loosely defined vague terms that kind of mean something but don't really mean anything, but mean something but don't really mean anything. I mean, come on. Just said, I think you should talk to the political science students at the HBCU. That would be interesting. But doesn't sound like any of, I mean, I hope this isn't what the political science is teaching them.
That's what they mean. Why do you charge it against them that they think it's to you specifically? Because we know you're not here to oppress us, per se, right?
Well, I would hope not. Well, I think that I'm still in.
How could he oppress you? Explain to me the process of John Doyle going to a college and oppressing you. What exactly does that look like? What would he have to do? What would you have to do? Because I don't see how that's even possible. I don't even see how that is possible.
Some way culpable as a white person. For example, like if reparations were imposed, that is something that would come out of my pocket to go towards Black America. So that does in some way affect me. Also, a lot of the policies that we mentioned earlier in terms of giving priority to Black applicants instead of white applicants, things like that, that does affect me in some way. It affects my friends, my family. So I think it's worth talking about.
Okay, but when you ask, when you talk about,
I just told you.
Wait, hold on. When you ask that question, you assume that all of us agree that we should get reparations. So because we're Black, that doesn't mean we all agree with the same thing.
Yeah.
So my point in talking to you is that while we all are Black people here, we don't have all the same ideas.
Yeah.
Just like white liberals may not always have the same ideas.
I agree. The reason I said that was because I think in the polling, one of the more popular issues among Black Americans is the idea of reparations. I don't think that's universal, but it is very popular amongst like the Black bloc vote.
And why do you think that is?
I think that Black Americans probably feel like that would heal some of the scar caused by slavery. I think that Black Americans, and correct me if this is inaccurate, I think they probably feel like that amount of money and whatever amount that is would probably help give them an advantage to where they could maybe close the gap in terms of material standard of living between Black Americans and white Americans.
Okay.
That sounds like a pretty strong steel man. Is that whether right, wrong, or indifferent, that seems to be a good representation of what the people who are asking for reparations want. And again, that's what you want to see in a good faith discussion, that that you understand, you're listening and understand the other side, and you're not just talking to talk. And if you're able to articulate their position, then you can't possibly not know it. Mike said they're not truly listening to this guy. They just want to speak and they don't want to understand.
Bingo.
Yep. And I mean, again, John Doyle has not done himself any favors in that realm. He's pretty controversial. So I'm not necessarily surprised or taken back that they're having this kind of reaction, but it's kind of proven the point that, this notion of college being a place for debate and discussion, not anymore. Straight indoctrination. Wanted Post says, well, yeah, he knows you all don't have the same ideas. However, he won't know what each individual ideas are unless he talks with said individuals. What's the point of her questions? Just to try to trip him up and try to get something that he can say that they can all jump on. That's all. Just Talk About It said it would help with healing since every other color got reparations.
What?
I didn't get any reparations. What you talk about?
Okay, so using your words, you said the scar of slavery. So
Yeah.
you believe there is a scar of slavery.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
I think I know it when I see it. I mean, I think that there's a lot of hurt in this country because of the legacy of slavery. I think that Black America, and I don't think the media, by the way, helps with this at all. I think that Black America looks at white America and vice versa as this sort of like maybe divorced parents trying their best to get along. And I think that there's a lot of hurt and it needs to be discussed. So.
But I need an example. The scar of slavery. How do we see the scar of slavery in American society? How do we see that?
I think that it's probably accurate to say that Black Americans don't really feel like they have a stake in America. Would that be inaccurate?
How do you know? How can you say what Black people feel?
Well, you asked me what I think.
I don't know. Maybe by going to places like where he's sitting right now and talking to people such as yourself. But actually having a conversation instead of just being grilled based on, what you trying to trip him up. Just says, do you really think he cares, or do you think he's showing up to get clicks and views? I don't think those are mutually exclusive, and I don't really care. I'm interested in the conversation that is happening. I don't care about John Doyle. I don't care if he is doing well in life. I don't care if he's not doing well in life. I don't wish him any harm, but I don't. That's not nothing about this is saying. Is supporting John Doyle. We are just as all the other students are there witnessing this conversation. We are in the same realm witnessing this conversation and judging it based on the fact that it is a conversation and how the individuals are interacting with each other. So I don't know and I don't care.
And this is just what I think. I don't know if it's true.
I'm asking an example of a scar of America, and then you go to talk about how Black people feel.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the correlation there.
Well, I think that, because Black Americans...
If he's wrong, then just tell him, no, you're wrong. This is actually what a scar of slavery would be.
Are Americans, that would affect our general social fabric if they feel like they don't have a stake in society or that this country isn't theirs for some reason.
Why would they feel like that?
Because of slavery.
Okay, but how does slavery affect today?
I agree. I don't think slavery does affect today beyond that.
Exactly.
No, ma'am.
Okay, do you think the American Revolution affects today?
In the sense that it established this nation independently from Great Britain, yes.
Do you think that the economic system of slavery helped to establish America? Do you think that?
Do you think the sky is blue? Do you think water is wet? Do you think a tree falling in the jungle is going to make a sound?
In a sense, I think that largely what we see now is because we were the only industrial economy left on the global stage after World War II. I think that our culture was pretty well solidified by then, but I don't think it's entirely because of slavery.
I didn't say entirely. I just said, do you think that contributes? Because the American Revolution was part of slavery, right?
I think it contributed insignificantly.
Okay, what about mass incarceration? Do you think that has any?
What about it?
Because you're not going to like this. I actually think we have an under-incarceration problem in this country.
May I ask you, why do you think that?
Because relative to the rate of violent crimes committed in this country, if you look at that number versus the amount of people we have, it's less than what it should be. Also, if you
think about the number. I mean, look at San Francisco and all these other cities that have decriminalized theft, and you see that people are just treating the jail like a revolving door. You do something, you go in, no bail, right out. You do something else, you get locked up again, right out, no bail. I mean, this is just facts. Like nobody's saying that because you are Black, that has anything to do with you, but these things are happening. And if you can't deal with the reality, then it's not number one, it's not a good look. And number two, you're not going to be able to navigate the real world because not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Mike said, I hate echo chambers. An all-Black school is an echo chamber. Also, they're only learning one side. I mean, I have no idea what they're learning. I can't. I imagine that it's different let's say. I imagine that it's different. And it shouldn't be the case that having an all-black school is an echo chamber. It shouldn't be the case because black people, just like anybody else, are individuals. But I think kind of what John's point might be, is that despite that fact, a lot of black people do tend to coalesce around the black ideas of black culture, the established black culture. And I think that's not helpful. I think the collectivism that comes with the black community, I don't think that thinking of yourself as part of this group that is in such a negative way, I don't think that's helpful. I don't see how it helps you to say, well, okay, well, other black people can't do this, that, or the other. Yeah, that's bad. Okay. But unless you're actively doing something about it, why don't you just be one of the black people who does well? Because you can, unless you believe that you can't.
Any article, and this is anecdotal, every time I read an article about some person being murdered, I read the description of the offender, and it's always that this person was in jail for something and they were released. So I think we have a problem where you have, frankly, liberal district attorneys refusing to prosecute crimes, refusing to sentence for the proper amount for the crimes. And so we see a high rate of repeat offenders because we just don't keep these people locked in prison.
And the response to that, or in general, the reason that liberals want to lower these sentences is, because they feel bad. They don't want people to get caught up in the system. But the problem is that the people who do bigger crimes will typically do smaller crimes first. So if you let people do the smaller crimes, then number one, there's going to be a lot more smaller crimes. But then there's also going to be a lot more people who have done the smaller crimes who are ready to step their game up. Am I wrong?
Okay, so with repeat offenders, are there more people in prison for violent crimes or for minor crimes?
Definitely violent crimes.
Wait, do you know about the American
By far.
Legislative Exchange Council? Do you know about the American Legislative Exchange Council?
I do not.
Okay, it's a council.
Real.
It's a council that's made up of private sectors, or big organizations like Walmart used to be a part of it. State Farm is still a part of it. Many organizations have dropped because they're known to be a secretive organization that builds legislation and laws. And they are also made up of Republican representatives, state representatives that go to the House. They formulate these laws and present them in front of court.
Yeah.
One time they even got caught with their letterhead still on the paper that they were trying to promote the legislation. ALEC is known for creating the stop and frisk tactics that was implemented to incarcerate the now known as the Exonerated Five in New York City. Yusuf Salam, Corey Wise, Raymond Santana.
What is the point? Make a point. You're just saying things.
That's one. And that was meant to fuel black people into American prisons. And I'm only saying that because one of ALEC's main contributors was the first private prison industry. And the people who are also a part of ALEC make their phones that go in the prisons that get money from prisoners who do modern day slavery that you say still doesn't affect society today.
I think it does affect society, but again, you're not going to like this.
Yeah, right. We're getting really into some dream world conspiracy theory stuff. And hey, I mean, there's definitely corruption in politics. I'm not going to argue against that, but there's a secret group that does stuff. Okay. What does that have to do with America being racist? Nobody said there weren't racist people. Nobody said that there wasn't racism in the past of America. And again, this is on John Doyle for not putting the word today on his prompt. But Nick says, that's why I'm glad I went to school with a diverse group of people. I learned that your skin color tells me nothing more than that. It tells me nothing about who you actually are. Bingo! And most of us know that. Most of us know that. But we are now living in this upside down world where if you don't subscribe to the fact that this is racist, what Nick is saying, that you have to judge people based on their skin, that you have to treat people differently based on who they are, then I don't know. That's not a world that I want to live in. Hey, we got David Banner in the building. Welcome to the party. Said reparations for all the Native Americans. Yeah, they didn't get reparations either. But well, they got land, but you know, they're not doing so well with that, are they?
Well, I think that the prison system affects society in the sense that it doesn't do its job well enough.
I meant slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you not think that the work that happens in prisons today can be considered modern day slavery?
Yes. I would be sympathetic to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it still affects us today, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not racism because more white people are locked up than black people.
Okay, and it affects black people today, correct? Because all of those are fueled behind racist agendas.
Wouldn't that be after they commit a violent crime and go to prison, though?
Exonerated 5,
but that's one example, right?
There's many examples. That's just one of them. Right, but Khalid Browder, he killed himself after he got released from prison for a crime he didn't commit, and he was sitting in Rikers for all those years because he couldn't get a court date.
So unless you're presenting the case that the majority of people who are in Rikers are innocent, then this is a useless analogy. Yes, people fall through the cracks. Yes, that is a bad thing. Yes, people are convicted for things that they didn't do, and there may be an element of racism and prejudice to that. But this is why he needed to put the word today, because they're just talking past each other.
Terrible, and I think that's very wrong. But in terms of
that affects.
I think that those two examples don't outweigh the thousands of examples.
I'm just saying that's 2 in a million. Right. But what?
Well, the million that we know from the data that we aggregate would point to the opposite.
And what data? Where is this coming from?
The FBI, the Department of Justice.
Okay, can you show us that?
I don't have my binder of statistics. I don't.
So therefore, because you can't show it to me right now, that means it's not true. Okay.
You come here, the stuff that doesn't get reported, like body cams get turned
You come here to educate us, right, to some degree.
Not exactly. I just wanted to have a conversation.
Right. When you're having a conversation, you're providing facts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you come prepared with that?
Well, I know
he did have the facts. You can go and just Google what he said. Does the FBI say this? This is the academia mindset that everything has to be from a book that somebody that you like told you. What is it? I mean, if you don't have the knowledge around that, so like even if it were, let's say it was different. Let's say it wasn't. You know, he read a study and he misunderstood the conclusion. Then if you're not going to sit there and read the study, and he just pulls up a study, does that move the conversation forward? Oh. Then why bring up the stats at all?
The facts, and if you guys don't have to believe them, the problem is
but we can say the same thing. Yeah. We can say the same thing. We can say something. You won't believe it. You say something. We won't believe it. So how?
Yes, but one of you actually has read the stats.
The things I've disputed haven't been facts. They've been anecdotes, which I've said I agree those are terrible, but those don't outweigh what we know from the FBI, from the DOJ, etc.
But you're not showing me anything from the FBI to back that up.
True. Well, you would have to look it up. I mean, it is true.
Why can't you show us that?
It seems like I can't say anything right at all. I mean, anything I say, they've immediately got an answer to it. Sometimes it even contradicts something that was said previously. There's like this cycle of, this bad thing happens to black people. No, this actually benefits them disproportionately. Yes, but it's because this other bad thing happens to black people. And then the cycle just kind of repeats from there. So yeah, I didn't put in the effort to print everything out all nicely because I knew that it would just be ignored. But if you want to prove me wrong, show me that facts and logic can win, feel free to try your hand at it.
Yeah, exactly. I want to vote. You'd think the university students would know how to do their own research or at least Google. He told you where it came from. FBI, whatever the topic is, stats. And it will come right up onto your phone. But instead, you got to post pictures on social media about how there's an evil white racist who's spreading evil white racism all over the campus.
One thing I did do, though, was toss out my uncomfortable overpriced box.
Nah, bro.
It's the best.
Fine.
Sure, that's fine. A portion of it's attacked.
This is a long ad.
It's not that we feel threatened. Look, let me just say, we came here to have a conversation. We're not asking you to speak with us. If you would like to, you can. But the problem is we're trying to record this to show people that we still can have conversations in this country. Maybe you think I'm like an idiot racist, which maybe I am, but at least we can talk about it. So I believe
this is This is going to be the beginning or end of John Doyle's political career as a politician. If he can get this crowd and bring this back to one-on-one conversations, that's a task for being John Doyle in that crowd. Let's see.
And that's why I came out here with my crew to get this on camera. So that's what we're trying to do. So if you guys,
I got one question before I interrupt you. Why are you like admitting a racist? Like, what's that gonna gain you right now? Like,
I was just, admitting it's a possibility because I don't want to.
No, but like, you guys see how that looks though? Because it's like we already like right here.
How that looks? Who cares about what the truth is? Do you understand how that looks?
Oh, you must say we gonna do nothing, but it's like tension's already. How you gonna say you're a racist?
No, I didn't say I was a racist. I said maybe I am because no.
If there's a possibility.
The point is, there's no possibility. I am the least racist person you guys have ever met. You guys have ever met. The point is, if you guys wouldn't mind just backing up a little bit so that our second camera could get the shot, I would just appreciate that. Or just, open up a crevice or something. Yes.
I don't know. John for president?
I know you came here today and you're very educated on this topic, or you wouldn't have come here. Yes, educated on his side. Yes, on your side, you haven't come here. Obviously, we're all college students. Me, I'm a freshman, so yes, I do know a lot to have this conversation, but you come here with stats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I woke up not knowing this was going to happen today.
Yeah.
Do you go to like actual, since you are on a college campus, like professors and stuff who studied on this,
Yeah.
who can actually have like this intellectual conversation that you are looking for out of these students here?
Interestingly enough, every time I've reached out to professors, they've denied that because they didn't.
Furthermore, that is a different thing. That is a different thing. If you want to go have a conversation with a professor, that is a great thing to do. But that is a different thing than having a conversation with college students to see what college students actually think. You can't understand what college students actually think unless you talk to college students. I don't get it. I don't get it. There's always this, well, you should do this, that, and that, and that. Even when we were, I put out that video about cart narcs, with the guy who goes and makes people, make sure people put their shopping cart back. And the girl's like, well, you should set up a booth. And instead of just putting her cart back, she had this whole long laundry list of what the guy who didn't leave a cart out, should do about carts. It's always somebody else's problem. Everybody has all the perfect ideas. If somebody would just listen to me and do what I say, then the world would be perfect. Or maybe those ideas are a little bit unfinished.
Didn't want to be on camera having these conversations with me.
Which ones did you talk to?
There was one at, I think, George Washington University.
Yeah, because
I didn't talk to one here.
Okay, so that's not fair. That's not fair. Yeah.
You didn't talk to every single professor here. Therefore, you're racist.
I haven't talked to any at either.
I'm sure you can find someone willing to talk to you.
Make sure you include that in the video.
HBCU professors did you reach out to?
No from either.
But you just say you reached out to a professor at George Washington University.
Correct. Yeah, they asked if I've done.
Because he was probably trying to do something with a professor at George Washington University, where at HBCU, he is trying to talk to you.
Done this with professors before. That conversation was going to be about differences between male and female dynamics in the workforce, not about racial politics. But I have reached out before, but typically professors don't want to be on camera having these conversations, in my experience.
That you didn't want to talk to white liberals about racism, but then you go and talk to professors at Georgia.
About
bruh. First, you're like, you should go talk to professors. Okay, yeah, I did that. I would love to do that. I can do that. But why are you talking to professors?
What?
A female professor about sexism. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm talking about this topic. Because you are on it. You decided to come on to HBCU today to do this. But you could have gone to professors and things who already have these statistics and prepared for this.
I have a question for you guys. Has anybody heard an actual argument that America is racist? We're about an hour into the video. Has anybody heard one argument, not a claim, an argument to back up a claim that America is racist? And even an attempt. Did I get this one already? Mike says, if he came with stats, they would say he didn't come to have a conversation, but to debate. Exactly. There is no winning. It's just victimization. How can I turn this? There's a white man on my black campus saying that America is not racist. I am victimized. How can I capitalize on that? You know, just talk about it was asking about whether John was just there for clicks and views. Nobody forced any of the students to be there. You think maybe they're there for some views and maybe some attention? Just saying. Wilto said John needs to unleash his inner Crowder. Definitely. Yeah.
Are you willing to have that talk with the actual professor?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I chose students is because I myself am a student. Well,
he might be David, but he's definitely better at doing change my mind than Doyle is.
I was.
Where do you go?
I dropped out of college, believe it or not.
So he wants to talk to college educated.
I wanted to talk to people.
Notice how immediately the whole crowd was like, oh, now we get it why you're so dumb and racist, because you didn't have somebody else telling you exactly what to think. If you don't go to a place and they tell you exactly what to think, then you cannot be smart. When in fact, it is the exact opposite. That if all you know how to do is to regurgitate what other people told you, you are the one who does not know how to think. Maybe he's uneducated, but he's a lot smarter. And what does that say? If you're educated and he's smarter, what does that say?
My age about this. I am 23.
We don't know something. How old are you?
23.
That in the video.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep that part in of you trying to dunk on me for not going to college right after you literally said that it's unfair because I know too much on the topic. Yeah, I will do that actually.
Why'd you choose your HBCU?
So I found out, and I think you'll probably agree with this, that this is considered to be the best public HBCU in the country. Right. So I thought that if I'm going to have a conversation with students, I should go to the best HBCU in the country, talk to students about racial politics. I think that's like pretty much the right trajectory.
But I feel like it'd be way better to talk to professors. I came from
I went to a local community college in Michigan.
Again, what is this? What are we doing?
I was going to go into poly. Respectful and civil. I know that a lot of people think that I'm doing this to try to like get a reaction. I'm really not. I think if I were trying to do that, I'd be much more provocative and rude.
Do you think if a black person went to the Capitol during the insurrection or before it when they were talking, do you think that they would have had a similar interaction?
Well, there have actually been instances of Black Lives Matter protesters overtaking.
I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about a single black person who was talking
This
to.
is what you have to do. You have to know where to focus your attention. And I mean, I would probably be inclined to want to address people who are trying to, you know, like check me. But you know, you have to be able to not only stay focused, but you know, like Liltos is pointing out, keep your composure. He's not getting pissed because he's making bank on this video. This has 180,000 views. So I think a couple hours of, you know, being accosted by people and then having your point be proven, and all the money that comes from all of that. Remember, there's been 2 ad breaks or ad reads in this video. So he's making money. He's making money, and that as well.
A group of white people and they're around an issue. Do you think it'll be a similar interaction?
Are you talking about January 6th? I'm confused.
We're talking about if there's a group of white people, for example, let's say I was 23 and I decided exactly doing what you're doing as a black person going onto a white campus. Do you think we'd have the same civil interaction we're having right now?
Absolutely. I think it'd actually be more civil.
So your purpose is saying more civil.
Because
black people are savages.
That's not what I said. I think that white students, they're kind of, I don't want to say nerdy.
They're less violent.
No, sir. But they're much more willing to just like all stand back and listen and go, ooh, that's very interesting. Whereas this tends to be a discussion where everybody wants to chime in. And so in my experience dealing with both groups, that tends to be true.
Do you not think it's because we're black students and we actually are living this?
Yeah.
This isn't a news story to us.
Yeah.
My brother.
Yes, that's why he's there. Again, they have an issue with the fact that he's there, but he also they would also have an issue if he was only talking to white students. But he doesn't want him talking to them. But he's supposed to know about what they think. But it's racist and insensitive to go there and ask what they think. Got it.
Got his ass beat by cops in Charleston. almost got killed because he's black. Like, do you think maybe our reaction is different because we live this?
Sure, yeah.
We can't take this off when we go home. We can't dress up in a suit and be.
You're not just learning this in a book.
We are looking at either way because this is our skin. This is my life.
Yeah, and that's why I'm here to talk about it.
Please, thank you. I have a question mostly about your decision to do it today in this time. Like, there's a time and place in an audience.
Yeah.
Every time you discuss anything, right? Do you think that you even considered or thought about the change in reaction about doing a segment like this during Black History Month?
Another way to rephrase that question would be,
how dare you?
Actually, it was precisely the decision
Right,
because
and
I thought that would.
because of what?
Because if I want to have a conversation about racial politics and I'm planning my schedule, I thought that it would be best to do it during Black History Month.
Why not honor black figures?
That makes sense though, right? Maybe it's wrong, but that makes sense.
Also, piggyback.
You know Black History Month?
I don't know if you didn't.
Is it Black History?
What? Black History Month? Do you know what it's for?
Is it Black History? I'm going to guess Black History.
It's about celebrating
Yeah.
how far we've come as a community, a black community.
Yeah.
so maybe doing something like elevating black voices or highlighting race. Oh, you mean exactly what he's doing. There's no winning when somebody is dead set on being a victim. You got to be able to point these people out. I'm not talking about the race. I'm talking about the people who will play victim. The people who will play victim will always find a way to twist and turn everything into your fault. And so in a situation like what he's doing, again, as we said in the last show, that when they were having the transformation debate, that it's not about changing the other person's mind. It's about presenting the ideas and letting us, the audience, judge what we see. Did we get that one? We got that one. All right.
It's about celebrating the figure. So instead of perpetuating more drama and hysteria, why don't you just choose to do a segment where you're actually informing people or having discussions about public black figures that have done something? Talk about
You want white man John Doyle to educate people about black figures? Something tells me you might have a little bit of a problem with that.
what we're doing in our communities to reach racial equity.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about something like that instead of starting a debate during Black History Month?
race.
Black History Month is a month of celebration, not sorrow. We've gotten out of our sorrow, but for some reason, white people keep trying to bring us back in it. We can't be happy for 28 fucking days, the shortest month of the year.
I hear differently. Typically, when I talk to black students about politics, or even listen to the most prominent voices in I guess black leadership, it's all very opposite of that. It's not celebrating. It's all upset about the injustices committed against blacks by white America.
Facts. Don't tell me that Black History Month is about celebration when everything we hear is what was horrible that happened to black people. That's fine. We need to be aware of the pardon the pun, but the black eye on American history. We need to know about that. I don't know if we need a whole month, but in any other context, this would specifically and directly be elevating black voices. But because they're not doing a good job in their role of being elevated, now it's his fault for highlighting what? Black mediocrity? Is that what they're saying? We're mediocre, so you shouldn't show us because we're making black people look bad. That's what it sounds like the argument is. Perpetuating hysteria. Yeah. Who's being hysterical here?
Well, I mean no disrespect by this, but you guys are here talking to me, so I'm assuming you at least have some stake in it. And if you really thought I was crazy or didn't want to talk, you could walk away.
One thing I noticed is that the girl that I spoke to earlier actually changes her demeanor based on how the crowd is acting, which I guess, to be fair, most of them are doing. But, she's one of our main characters, so it sticks out a little bit more. The whole talking to professors thing, too, by the way. Oh, yeah, okay, drop the pin. I'm totally down to do that. But here's the thing. If you're going to hold such radical positions with such...
Shout out to MMA fans. That, shit, I messed up my joke. But I was going to make a send location joke.
Radical implications and effects, and which are effectively indictments on me personally because I'm white, you have to be able to defend those. This isn't just like you like Pepsi, I like Coca-Cola. Your beliefs literally are moral indictments on me and my country, which if brought to fruition are going to significantly, objectively reduce my quality of life and that of my family. So yeah, if you're going to have that level of audacity, you can't just hide behind a professor. I'll talk to...
AKA just saying things. It's everywhere.
Them
It's
too,
everywhere.
that's fine. But you can't think that you're just entitled to these positions by default as if they're
entitled,
self-evident, especially when, as you can see here, you can't even defend them for the most part. But that's the thing. The idea that there's even a conversation, meaning a back and forth, meaning the possibility that they are not completely correct, is so offensive that it literally almost incites violence. That's why they say they're educating you. That means you just have to sit and just internalize all the information. No dialogue, no objections. You don't know better. You're white, so just be educated. And I try to extend an olive branch like, hey, maybe you guys are right. Maybe I am just some racist guy. And they're like, I knew it. You outed yourself. You will now pay. There's like 10 times throughout this video where they make these smug little threats to us. And yes, you see this behavior with white leftists too, but ask yourself why that is. Ask yourself what black and white leftists have in common beyond just they vote for Democrats. Think about it. Makes a lot.
What do you what do you think he specifically means with that? Hold on. Let's see. What do you think he actually specifically?
You will now pay. There's like 10 times throughout this video where they make these smug little threats to us. And yes, you see this behavior with white leftists too, but ask yourself why that is. Ask yourself what black and white leftists have in common beyond just they vote for Democrats. Think about it. Makes a lot more sense.
What is the title of this segment going to be called? Because I'm looking at your last video and it says Angry and Clueless Feminists at Women's March in 2020.
They were angry and clueless. You guys aren't angry and clueless.
So
that's hilarious. Hey, we got Melted Mind Media in the building. Welcome to the party. Another awesome YouTuber just dropped the link to his channel. Please go check him out. Welcome to the party.
Title gonna be? Are you gonna address this problem?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say America is not racist. Change my mind at HBCU. That will be the title.
No, I would say at the HBCU.
Okay, I'll say the. I will say that if you want me to. I'll say that.
Absolutely. John, what did you go to the feminist thing asking about? For them to be angry and clueless, as you called me.
I was asking them about abortion rights.
See, that's what I'm saying. Don't feed into an abortion. I'm not feeding into that. Yep. We're not going to feed into that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't actually.
No, you did.
If you haven't watched the video, if you watch the video, you'll see.
I'm not watching that shit.
So then you don't get to have an opinion on it.
I actually did have an opinion
on something you didn't watch.
You can have an opinion on that.
On what?
You're not black, so you get to have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
That was the argument that you were making. Oh my God, these people are so dumb. They're so dumb. Don't send your kids to college. Please don't send your kids to college. They will turn into this. My mind is blown. That every college, and it has nothing to do with the race. It has nothing to do with race. This is what college kids are like. They're so fervent that they have all of the answers because they're college educated. It's like, bro, we've had the internet for 30 years. Unless you're a rocket scientist, then chill.
Because you can't have an opinion on a video you didn't watch. I grew up with black people. I live with black
I got a question. So,
yes, sir.
This is John Doyle once said, right? The three problems in America today are the women, the women, the Jew, and the homosexual. What do you mean by that?
Damn, two.
Okay. Hold on.
This is why, at the very beginning, I was like, this is not at all about me saying anything about John Doyle agreement or disagreement. I don't know his platform that well, and I'm not down with shit like that. Just saying. And make sure everybody is checking out the Mafiaverse channel in Discord. We are running the family up. Join the game. It is a good time. Nick said, you never imagined going to college would be a bad thing, did you? Nope. It is sad. It is very, very sad. And I remember when, like, the class, not the class right after mine, but like, you know, the 4 years after mine, when I was like in 2015-ish, you know, I was looking at them and like, oh, these woke kids, ha 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 ha. They're going to get into the real world, and then they're going to think about all this. This wokeness is reality, and then you know, the real world is going to hit them in the face like a brick wall, and then they took over. They took over the world. How did it happen? Why did it happen? And how do we stop it?
There was a guy, his name is Gavin McInnes. Maybe some of you are familiar. He's a comedian. He did a joke one time where he went up on stage and everyone thought he was a Nazi. And so he said that to throw him off, like some actual Nazi stuff. So I quoted his quote, and I'm assuming that's a hit piece about me or something.
Why would you quote that?
So I was giving an example of what not to do. No,
What's your life?
I just talk about
This
politics.
is like the Papa John's thing, where he was like, "We shouldn't be saying XYZ," and then they fired him for saying XYZ.
So what's the point? Like, what was
Talking about politics.
What
They're
credentials?
so hard up to understand that people might just be interested in talking about politics and understanding what's going on. What are you learning? What are you learning at college? If it's not to do exactly what John is doing, to learn about what other people think, but to learn about how the world works, how society works, what are you there for? To party, I guess.
What do you have to make you?
What is your life purpose with this? Like, what is your goal at the end? What are you gaining from this? Is my question.
Or is it just
Like, what are you gaining? Not what you're making, not what your goal is. What are you gaining from this experience?
Money, money, money.
I have an interest in politics, and I like talking to people. So,
I mean, like
yeah,
this specific experience.
I enjoy this.
But are you even?
What do you enjoy about it?
Typically in politics, the rule is that if you're explaining, you're losing. But I was curious to see all the different avenues they would pursue in order to avoid just addressing the ideas head on. So, yeah, you know, they started asking about my personal life, which I don't care. I'll answer the questions. But can we just acknowledge, like, as if any of that matters for literally any reason, as if any of that has any pertinence to what we're talking about. And of course, they loved hearing me say, yeah, I had black friends, because they think it's really funny when the people that they're accusing of treating people differently and poorly because of their skin color think that being friends with those people counters that. Crazy thought, right? And again, everything I said, there was an answer, there was an objection. I could not say anything right. This part is actually, it's pretty unproductive. It gets better shortly, but this whole thing is honestly just a great example of what these conversations are actually like. This is what we're dealing with, and it's only going to get more extreme and more vicious.
You hang out with.
That's exactly why we're watching this. You don't have to agree with John Doyle's politics to understand that there's value in what we are watching and seeing that this is actually a real college campus with real college students and what they really actually think, how they're actually really behaving. This isn't a movie. This isn't Twitter. This is real life. And if you can't see the value in that, then I don't know what else to tell you.
I always hang out actually with like a pretty diverse group of kids.
What did that consist of? Can you be more specific?
We had like
so weird. I would not be able to list the races of my friends off the top of my head. If you know all of your friends, well, I've got 3 Hispanic friends and 6 black friends, and 3 of them are white, but 2 of them, like, that's so weird. That's so weird if you know that off the top of your head.
a fat white kid. We had like a few black kids. Actually, all my best friends, come to think of it, growing up, because the neighborhood I lived in.
Go ahead. I got a question.
Stop trying to win an argument and just have a conversation.
I have a question. Why do you think your proximity to blackness equates to your knowledge with black issues?
That's a good
I don't think it means everything, but I think it means something.
Why?
I think
As far as what?
Well, I think if I were talking about it with absolutely no experience dealing with black people in my life, that would be ridiculous. Maybe
But
if
you're not going through what they
We
went
gotta.
Regardless of the answer to this question, how better to learn better than speak to you? Instead of shouting him down, telling him that you're educating him, why don't you actually try to educate him? Because you can't.
I think at least having grown up, and again, you know, it's kind of a buzzword, but I've had black friends my whole life. I think that at least gives me something. You know what's interesting too? If you talk to like racist people from like 100 years ago and ask them if they have black friends, they'd be like, hell no. So like your threshold of what means racism,
Did you experience
not 100 years
the things
ago.
that your black friends experienced? Exactly.
I don't think they really experienced a whole lot of injustice.
Did you ever ask? Did you ask them that?
Wait, why do you think that though?
Well, I mean, I was friends with them.
They know better because they're all black, so they know those people better. Never stops.
I grew up with them.
Maybe that's because where they were surrounded. That could be true.
Did you not think about the little things, like maybe when you guys were all in the store, they were looking at your friends and not you? Did you think about implicit things like that? When you learned how to drive,
No, they would have said something.
I'm sorry. What was your answer? I'm sorry.
No, they would have said something about it.
No, they wouldn't.
Why black?
Again, they know his friends better than they do because they are black.
Friends, yes, they would.
How? Because I'm black. I'm black. I know because
I'm black, so I know how all black people act.
black.
You're talking about my friends I grew up with. I know them better than you know them.
And you're white. You're white. You're white.
White.
And I am black. So I would know maybe a little bit more because I'm black.
I grew up in a very...
So she's literally claiming that she knows his friends better than he does because she is black. What are we doing here? Maybe America is racist. Maybe they're not helping. They're not helping their point. They're not helping their point.
I do got a question. So this segment is America's not racist, right?
Yes, sir.
So how do you describe like what's it called, like the red line and things, you know, because a lot of our wealth, a lot of economics.
Oh, come on, bro. You're late to the party. We already went over this. Please, John, please just push through.
Putting us down, you know me, like we weren't allowed to invest in actual real estate.
Yep.
We weren't allowed to go out and do that. So, and when we did go do it, which America has been founded on, like she was saying, we get into it, mass incarceration, right? We're looking at how it's teaching us the skills and the jobs we need, right? So we talk about how y'all are taking jobs away from us, from our grandparents, right?
Yeah.
This 70s, this 60s, 70s, right? So we get into it, we lose the job, and then it's proven fact. CIA has confirmed they've been pumping drugs into our neighborhood, and then we're gonna criminalize the addiction, right?
Yeah.
So then, and then along with the prison system, if the prison systems ain't racist, why is it that the privatized prison systems, to gain money from the government, they have to be at max capacity, right? And so we have this.
So John should be now trying to. I mean, he's been letting this go, and you can see based on the how long he's doing, how long he's been doing this, and how long the video is. He should be saying, okay, fine, let's go on that thing. Let's say that thing is true, that the entire prison industrial complex is racist. Does that make America racist? That gets back to the conversation, because you can make arguments either way. You can say, yes, that's a huge part of how we live our lives. And if that big of an aspect is going to be that corrupt in a racial way, then yes, America is racist. Or you could make the argument the other way, that's a part of society that is racist. That doesn't make the whole racist. Either way, you can do that. Except he needs to think it's local Democrat senator for that. Oh, he needs to thank the local senator. Yeah, right.
So we see police quotas where they have to go out. They're giving out the tickets. They're giving, and which with the black people for the simple traffic violation, we see it escalated way farther. Mm-hmm. We see it.
Yeah, because no white people ever get taken out of their car at a traffic stop. And I'm not white. I'm not black. So it must be that I've never had any problems with the police, right?
Exactly.
For a traffic stop.
Right. And our prison system isn't based on reformation, on rehabilitation in the communities where we've had everything taken from us, where we've had everything done to us, and we're merely trying to survive. That's what it comes down to. Y'all try to criminalize the survival of it when you've taken away everything that and I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm talking about the people in power, where they've taken away our job, where they've introduced this addiction, where to feed my family, I got two choices. I can either go hustle this, or I can smoke it because I can't feed my family. Mm-hmm. Right?
What? Hold on. I need to hear that part one more time. I wanted to said, wouldn't the courts set longer sentences and DAs prosecute even more people instead of the current methods of prosecuting less and only smaller offenses? Dude isn't making sense. No, he's not. Mike says they need to stop with the collective thinking that will always keep you down. Exactly. This is the problem with thinking about the black community as people typically do. At least from what I've seen, you get bogged down in the lowest. You get bogged down in the lowest parts of your community, the lowest parts of people, things that happen regarding people that share a similar level of melanin in your skin. and you make that your whole worldview. Like, yeah, we need to run this back. We need to run this back.
Where they've introduced this addiction where to feed my family, I got two choices. I can either go hustle this or I can smoke it because I can't feed my family.
Mm-hmm. Or you could get a job. Those are the only two choices of this guy at a university. You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up.
Right? So then we're going to criminalize addiction, which we now see reaches out to white people a lot. We see the pill epidemic, right?
Okay, so then that would prove that it's not based on race if it's spreading out to white people.
Yeah, but the difference is when it was in black communities, y'all over-policed those communities and arrested everybody. But when white kids started doing pills, it was the opium epidemic, and now we have to fix the pharmaceutical companies.
There we go.
Yeah, because nobody said anything about the crack epidemic, right?
There's a difference between fixing
But they didn't overrun those white areas either.
Mind if I respond to that?
Never.
So, yeah, hold on.
They getting a little aggressive with my man. He work here.
So this part was interesting. Some faculty member at the university comes over
Of
and picks up the
course.
box that we had behind us and tries to take a picture of the shipping label so we can get our names and addresses. And so we get into this back and forth with him because there's absolutely no innocent reason to be doing that. Like, if you want to know who we are, just ask. We're within our rights to be here. At that point, it hadn't gotten too crazy. So it's extremely bizarre that this guy would just come up from behind us and try to start going through our stuff to find out our personal information. But the funniest part about this, which the guys in the HOC Discord will appreciate, is that since we filmed this at North Carolina Agricultural and Technological University, we shipped the stuff to our guy who lives in North Carolina. And that also happens to be the guy that everyone on the Discord server routinely doxes as a meme, like in school presentations, bathroom stalls. So even in this guy's best efforts to expose our operation, he recovers virtually no new information. But even then, it just goes to show the type of people working at these places. Like, I'm trying to talk to black students about race in America. Some white faculty member starts trying to take photographs of our private information for God knows what purpose. Just very unsettling behavior.
One second. I'm going to talk to this gentleman here. We're going to try to restore the format here.
I'm gonna maintain position.
All right, let's see. This guy, as much as the dude didn't seem to know what he was talking about, he seemed to be able to articulate what he thinks he was talking about. So hopefully he can be there enough that the other people don't feel the need to jump in.
Bro, call him, big bro.
What's your name, sir?
Devonta.
John, nice to meet you. So you mentioned a lot of things. I think the first one you mentioned was redlining. If you don't mind, I'm probably going to ask you to repeat just because we had a slight, what I believe is an interruption. So with redlining, what I think is...
Facts, Nick. The old, this is your brain on drugs with the eggs. Just change it to, this is your brain on liberalism.
It's interesting. If you look at like the economic markers in the neighborhoods that were, said you can't loan, or these are high risk areas to loan, when you take all of those economic markers into account and look at just purely by the race of the neighborhoods, what you find is that it's not actually that significantly different between white neighborhoods or black neighborhoods. Also, if you look even of the neighborhoods that were redlined in the first place, 85% of the inhabitants of those neighborhoods were white. And while those programs continued by, I think, the 1940s, disproportionately black Americans were actually receiving those loans. And so I don't think that it's
That's not the question he asked.
85%.
That wasn't the question he asked. No, let him finish.
On average, like throughout the whole
So
country.
now we're just going back. Well, that's not the question. You have to answer the direct question.
Yes, sir.
Let him finish.
Yes, sir. So I don't think it's fair to, point the finger at that one policy and say that that's responsible for the reason that like black Americans today don't have wealth. And I think you also mentioned generational wealth.
Can I respond to that though? So my thing is, I'm not saying that with redlining that they couldn't go and get the property. What I'm saying is back when we were trying to move out of these spots, where they weren't allowing us to go out and move into nicer properties. These properties that the city under neglected, you feel me, where you see are in over police.
I just bought a second round of soldiers and now I don't have the money. I have a collection.
You see that?
I have a collection going though. Give me a minute.
Our resources, our roads aren't being paved correctly. What's it called? Our structures around us aren't being taken care of. And then on top of it, our schools are being underfunded. We aren't getting the same opportunity to prosper. And I'm not saying that everyone should have the same thing. What I'm saying is we should all have the same opportunity to grow and to succeed. But when you see continuously in our schools where they're not allowing that, where our communities are being over policed, where we're being and you can look this up, where the cops are trained to treat us like targets and treating us as enemies.
Right? And why is that? Why is that? We have the recording of Bloomberg saying when you get the call that there's been a shooting, 92% of the time it's a dark-skinned male. So why would you be policing areas where there's not crime instead of policing the areas where the crime is?
Rather than members of our own communities. When you go into that, when the people policing us, one, aren't from our neighborhoods, where they don't know us, they don't know the dynamics of our people, but you got them coming in and now we're treated as enemies.
Yeah,
you see it.
This is the same argument as you have to have a black doctor, otherwise you're gonna die.
And then when we're not allowed to move out of them spaces, because it wasn't just as simple as, oh yeah, and I agree that there were a lot of poor white people, but that's where they get it messed up though, is that we were all poor, but the thing is, black people were meant to be kept poor. Those poor white people, if they were to go out and try to do it, they could. Whereas we were denied, not based off of the money we had, not based off of any record that we had, was purely off the color of our skin.
So you're saying that there was poor white people and there was poor black people, and the white people could do it, but the black people can't. That's racist! Okay, as long as I'm getting your opinion correct.
I want to talk about the generational wealth thing, because I think a lot of what the discussion is getting...
Guys, can I get 2 more likes, please? Just 2. Thank you.
Is pivoting to this idea of like the historical injustices. I want to talk about like contemporary America, which, as you mentioned, we can't talk about the present if we can't talk about the past. So I think the question becomes, is the reason that black Americans have not been able to accumulate generational wealth because of those policies that you mentioned? I would argue that that's not the reason. I think that if you look at how black Americans actually spend money when they have it, That's
racist. That's racist.
Control for income. So if you take a white person and a black person making the same amount of money, for whatever reason, white people are more likely to save that money, less likely to spend it on fancy cars, costume jewelry, things like that. I don't think that's true either. Because if you look, I totally agree. If you look at like the education that he mentioned too, we mentioned this earlier, that per pupil, white students actually receive 1% less funding than black students. The problem with it's true. The problem with black schools is that they're in districts, like you mentioned, that aren't receiving funding from the tax revenue because businesses don't like to invest in those communities because for whatever reason they're violent. You think that they're over-policed. I think that they're probably under-policed. I think the only way to retain some type of law and order to where businesses would want to come into the community, invest, know that they're not going to get robbed, they're not going to get their stores looted or something like that, would be to have more police, a safer community that would bring that economic investment. And if you look at like the home ownership rate, even the unemployment rate, when America was like most racist, I guess, post-slavery, pre-Jim Crow, the white unemployment rate and the black unemployment rate were pretty much the same. The white home ownership rate and the black home ownership rate were much closer than they are now.
That's an interesting point. I want to jump back in, but I got to correct you, Mike. It's not the black face of racism. Larry Elder was called the black face of white supremacy. The black face of white supremacy. And people bought it, ate it, and chomped on it and enjoyed it.
So for some reason, as this country has become less racist in terms of the laws, those gaps between white and black people have gotten wider, and I just don't understand how that's possible.
All right, so you said, and I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. You said
after slavery, pre-Jim Crow, it was more equal.
Slavery, the amount of poor white people and the poor black people were about the same, right?
Not the same.
Here, look. I bet you $1,000. I bet you that he's somehow going to turn it. Well, that's when all the racism changed from this to that, and allowed white people to do this because of that. And I'm not even necessarily going to say that's completely wrong. But you have to outline what it is that you think happened before I can say, oh, okay, that does sound realistic.
So if you look at the unemployment rate, they were pretty much the same. And so what we've seen since then is the black unemployment rate has gone up and the white unemployment rate has pretty much stayed the same. The home ownership rate as well. The home ownership rate for black Americans was much higher prior to the 1960s than it is now. And I just don't understand how that could be, because since the 1960s, we've gotten rid of things like, discriminatory laws, redlining. We even have incentive programs to give specifically black home buyers loans, things like that. But then why hasn't it undone it? It hasn't actually gotten...
told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago.
You can tell what these people think by one sentence because of the rhetoric that continually gets repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over. These are not new ideas. They're just regurgitating the things that they think is enough to say, well, this happened, therefore I'm entitled to XYZ. I mean, I told you. I knew it. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We are going to make use of the stage channel in Discord for the first time. We have not done this yet. And like I said in the beginning, I really like doing these longer form things, but I can't be streaming for 5, 6, 7 hours like that. So if you would like to see the rest of this show, you can join the free Discord server. The link is in the description. If there's any mods here that could drop the link, we're going to head over there into the after show channel. And I will finish the rest of this video, and then we're going to hop into the video chat channel to do our panel. So I want to thank you guys so much. Big shout out to Unwanted Foe for sponsoring the stream with 5 gifted memberships, and a big shout out to Lars and Rune for the 149 super sticker. Thank you. You guys know I really enjoy hanging out with you, doing this stuff with you guys. Even if you can't contribute, that is perfectly fine. As long as you're here with me, that's what I am here for the conversation, for learning, for trying. I don't know if we're I can only do so much, but I'm trying to help the way that we discuss things, particularly in politics, with each other and with people that we disagree with. So if you are, if that's something that you think is a worthy goal, then definitely please hit the subscribe, share this out to somebody who would appreciate it. And Nick says, sounds good, buddy. You have a great day. You as well. I better see you there. But thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate it. And Morty is gone. I don't know where he is, but I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.